Finally. Finally, I'm there. Finally. Hey. Finally. I am finally there. I am finally there. Finally, I'm there. Ndatambura nas. Finally, I am there, ladies and gentlemen. Madzose zisati dzaziva neshoko guru randinoda kukunzai neusonjamisa wave nebato idzva norakatorwa mushure mekunge paonekwa kuti lineage ukwena mutikore 9 ane mandu konzora komichi nakupe nevamwe saka kana mave kuzoenda kunovhota munofanirwa kucherechedza kwazvo chiso chachamisa nematatu pamwe neruvara rwemabhanana kotera neusonjamisa koterai pamasi matatu koterai neusonjamisa koterai paruvara rwemabhanana koterai neusonjamisa koterai pamasi matatu koterai neusonjamisa koterai paruvara rwemabhanana musanyengedzwa nebato rezano muchipiwa mbeu nefotereza tinoda bato rinoudza mabasa kuti mugozvitengera mega zvamunoda bato rezano rauraya nyika muzere mbavha dzinoba zvikuru vanongozvifunga ivo vega mongo yenyika ichikanga waya kana vauya kwamuri vanonyepa kuti masanctions auraya nyika nyamba varivo vanouraya nyika nekuda kweuori hwavanoita potera neusonjamisa poterai pamasi matatu poterai neusonjamisa poterai paruvara rwemabhanana poterai neusonjamisa poterai pamasi matatu poterai neusonjamisa poterai paruvara rwemabhanana. Tapedzana. Welcome ndoka akuvhura nekuvhara mutambo kahosana ke platform kanaka makadii vana veZimbabwe ndine urombo nevapinda vandisina kukwazisa regai ndikukwazisei mose kamwe chete nchiti makadii kumativi mana enyika kwamuri atete Sylvia Lauren Parsons makadii Mukoma Evans murimwa vari kubvunza Jimmy kunaka inini ndiri wani munhu akataura akati Jimmy kunaka kana akataura zvakanaka sei I don't like him. Jasma Sigodo zviri sei bururu vaSigodo zviri kufamba here hai Mukoma Yuda ndakasimba baba Matombo zviri kudini. I'm the only person in Zimbabwe akataura kuti Jimmy kunaka kana akataura zvinotapira sei I don't like the guy. Jimmy kunaka Johnson anonzani Johnson vanhu tuava kana vakataura zvinotapira se I don't like them najimu kunaka takaita confrontation dzisingaperi kubva ndiri Zimbabwe kama confrontation I don't like him I don't like Jonathan Moyo, I don't like Jim Kunaka. Vanhu tuava kana vakataura zvinotapira se I don't like them. Atetani zviri sei mukoma Lenton mashoko makadii. Munoona nyaya yandinakidza yandipa kunduye live. You can tell nhasi anaurara ndarira kuma 4 am ndichiverenga news. 4 am ndikamukira ndikaenda kuchikoro. Pandakaenda kuchikoro pane vanhu vakakontributa mari yandakabhadhara kuchikoro kuti ndiende ndiende kuita course yandiri kuita. I'm not going to name them here, but pane vanhu vakakontributa mari yandakanobhadhara ndandapererwa. I just wanted 350 pounds. Unoona ndikati I just wanted nechitanga imari shoma stereo. That is a lot of money in this country. Anyway, Muriti Rwanzi Mdarayuda, I see people saluting you. One day I've seen this vision on many occasions. Hope to see you in a new Zimbabwe. Thank you, Mkomong. Thank you, Mwanamai. Innocent. Mureva zvivi mtema. Wana mtema ndana sekura. Magadini sekuru. Anzi Mkoma Yuda. Ndiri mzaya wenyu. Andisi Mkoma. Ndiri mwana wenyu. Mwana wenyu wa mtema. Ndiri mzaya wenyu. Ndakasimba sekuru makadini. Anzi Mkoma murise musiwa. Zviri kudini Mkoma Victor. Yuda my elder urise yako mkuru wangu. Tanaka dini. Ndakasimba mwana wamai. Pane chinhu changonifadza. Pane chinhu chanifadza nhasi. Chekuti ndangoti ndichibva ndanzwa kuti EU has extended sanctions against those on targeted sanctions and asset freeze. I said to myself, what is happening here? 𝗬𝗂 Mnangagwa was in Brussels. Sazita, Ngoma Shapiro. Zviri sei Sazita. Vana Shepard munonetsa imi. Ndofunga tinongoene same character naye Ngoma Shapiro. Zviri kufamba. Ndangoti ndichingoti cheke ndikaona kuti ko inga Emmerson Mnangagwa recently flew to Brussels. Ndakatanga kuona the way they welcomed Zimbabwe president. He was welcomed navafana vanofudza mombe Brussels. No minister, no president, no government official who welcomed Emmerson Mnangagwa in Brussels. This is where I started sensing danger. That this is an EU-AU summit where they will discuss Ndebele, how are you, Day Maria, zviri kufamba Ignatius Mapfuti. Tipewo Pfuti kamngoma Ignatius, makadi mngoma Ignatius. So I saw it and said to myself, look, this type of reception, no red carpet for 𝗬𝗂 Mnangagwa in Brussels. He was just welcomed by Zimbabwe embassy people, and he was welcomed by, I don't know, maybe my drug dealers in Brussels. Remember when Mugabe went to Brussels and Peter 𝗬𝗪 wanted to insert that plastic penis behind Mugabe's bottle. Ruvarashe Komera Ziri say, hello, how are you? Remember when Mugabe went to Brussels the other day, he met gays in Brussels. And Peter 𝗬𝗪 wanted to insert dildo behind Mugabe's, and he had to try to force it into Mugabe. There was chaos there. I still remember. Valerie, how are you? Nigel, Zurfamber, you were watching all the way from South Africa, Durban. Thank you so much, Mkoma Nigel. Nashika Mkoma, Mpungu, Zurfamber, Mkoma love moments, Zurudin. I'm still recalling an incident that happened in Brussels when Mugabe, during Mugabe's era, when he was president of Zimbabwe. He went to Brussels. Remember his stance against gays. He was like stampeding on people, on human rights and freedom of association, freedom of what. So when Mugabe arrived in Brussels, you know, gays went straight for him. They had dildos. They wanted him to feel. Oh, they were saying a dildo does not hurt. So let's insert it in Mugabe's anus. And there was chaos there. That image, that incident is still fresh in my mind. So when I saw Emmerson Mnangagwa getting off the plane, I thought I were going to see government officials in Brussels welcoming him. As Pagaro Amun, Paya Jeshua, because Wakomana Jangwas now Mira Zakanak. Mugabe Pangojim was right. I don't say so, I don't say so. You know why I don't say so? Because if you are heterosexual, these people say the way they feel is the same way a heterosexual feel. So hating someone because of his sexual orientation, honestly, that is something that we must never discuss. Because so far, all our relatives who died, not even one came back and said, look guys, if you die, you go to heaven. Not even one said that. And we've got ancestors and ancestors who left this world 1,000,000 years ago. Not even one of them came back and said, look, this is exactly what is in heaven. You understand? So the issue of condemning who should do what, that is not for us to judge. I don't want to lie. I will never judge anyone on those grounds. Because if you look, Mugabe was condemning homosexual. When he was condemning homosexuals, he was surrounded with the likes of Themba Mliswa. He was surrounded with the likes of Jonathan Moyo. He was surrounded. Just hang on, guys. Just hang on. Hello? Ndakasimba. Nri live on Facebook. Zuri say. And ndukutoro wabasa. Ora sakatozo taura ere ndabva pa live. Oh, thank you so much. All right, thank you. All right. Remember, I said I'm not going to ignore anyone. I'm not going to ignore anyone. Anyone who calls, I answer. I send a message in the open door. Mkoma Yuda, ndakasimba maiti, ziri say, Yuda, my boss, Alano, how are you? So, guys, let's be clear here. I don't condemn anyone for his sexual orientation. This is why you see someone thinks he or she, he was born a woman, she was born a man, and automatically follows what she was born like. So let's not condemn Izozo. What we need to do is let's look at human beings, all of them as human beings. Because when Mugabe was condemning gayism or homosexual, he was surrounded by homosexuals. Imagine, homosexual was first introduced into State House by ZANU-PF people. Gubwe, how are you? Gubwe. Gogwana Tamuri say, I'm okay, mama. I'm okay. How are you? Homosexual in our country. It was practiced in State House by President of Zimbabwe. A lot of senior policemen you see today were bananas women. A lot of ministers, his cabinet was full of gays. Mugabe's cabinet was full of gays. And to the extent that people were saying Mugabe was even abused by gays when he was taken to school by the priest, and the priest, they abused him sexually. This is probably he hated gays. You understand? He was like a woman to the gays, to the extent that it affected him the rest of his life. So we cannot take Mugabe's fight as our fight, because he was surrounded by homosexuals. We cannot hate homosexuals because Mugabe hated homosexuals. No. In our families, we've got homosexuals who are there. So we cannot, it's a very complex topic, definitely. It's a very complex topic that we all should respect people's opinions. Very complex, something that we should never discuss. Honestly, I'm not very comfortable discussing sexual orientation of other people, because some people were born like that. If you study psychology, you understand what I'm saying. Psychologically, some people feel they are women, some feel they are men. So we cannot condemn them for that. It's like condemning me. Then people condemning me. And 𝗬𝗂𝗏𝗀𝗃 was surrounded by gays. He was surrounded by gays, but he went on to condemn it whilst it was being practiced by his government officials, including ministers. So it's wrong for us to continue to judge people by their sexual orientation. So let's move forward to today's topic, ladies and gentlemen. Today I need to talk about sanctions. Angeline Morris, I don't have any issues with people's sexuality. That's their rights. My question was more from the biblical perspective, since Chamisa has portrayed himself as a person of Christianity. Chamisa has to respect people's rights, honestly. He has to abide by the constitution of the country. He is not going to use his common sense to run that country. He is going to implement sections of the constitution. So there is nowhere Chamisa would condemn gays, because in Christianity, there are a lot of gays there. A lot of gays. In today's government, there are a lot of gays. A lot of homosexuals. If you go to church, have you ever heard of priests sodomizing boys in churches? It means it's being practiced there. So we should never discuss that. We should never discuss that. Ngoma Albert Hans Ngito Maya, Zirimo Ngito government yenyu today. Was Jesus married? It's a very difficult question. You see where this topic will go, guys, if we go on. Some people are asking, Ngoma Temba was asking, was Jesus married? A very difficult question that not even one Christian can answer that. And how did Jesus Christ survive without a wife? Akoma chingochane chakarambwa muZimbabwe, but chaingoitwa muState House. Vaichirambidza kuti imimi musachiita, ivo vachiita. Andimona, it's very sad. I'm saying no to Ngito Mgomaida. Thank you. It's so sad that muZimbabwe chingochane chairambidzwa, asi chaiitwa nema-government officials. Chichiitwa muZBC. Do you still remember kuti Alumu Mpofu na Kevin 𝗬𝗂𝗏𝗃 vakabatwa pants down vachinamana muZBC mustudio? I think it's only South Africa inozvibvumira. Mustudio vainamana muZimbabwe, Alumu Mpofu na Kevin 𝗬𝗂𝗏. They were caught red-handed vachinamana mustudio. Let's talk about Brussels. Thank you so much. And so let's go back to our topic. So you can't survive without a woman. Myself, I can't. Mkoma Kalistos, honestly, I can't. Ukangoravira cheta, you can't. I can't survive without a wife. Honestly, I can't. I can't. Inina, I can't. I don't know. I can't survive without a wife. I can't. Kana ndikaenda ujeri ndinotambura ndofirako. Inina, I can't. I want to be honest with you. Hanzikana gubwe you the one day come on live in your uniform for masendeke kuti vanyatsoona masendeke wendihanga strike akadya sadza akarova. Takamutaura kuti munoma hamuna hanga strike. Hamuna nofane nzara mujeri. Basa redu is to feed the prisoners. Thank you so much. I will come ndakapfeka one day. The $1 million question is what happened to Itai Dzamara. Another $1 million question. Sayuda, let's go back to the topic. Continue with the Brussels. Thank you so much. Question erikubvunzwa namukoma enwe muriritirwa. That's the question that I have here. What happened to Itai Dzamara? Where is Itai Dzamara? EU, is it wrong to continue extending sanctions against ZANU-PF when ZANU-PF is continuing extending sanctions against the Dzamara family? Dzamara is not America, but ZANU-PF knows where they put Dzamara. Sanctions topic, issue of sexual preference in a mixed views. Definitely be careful of being called something in this country. Definitely. Let's leave it. And in it too, I can't survive without my players. Mataura mkomatizurwai. Daring tornadoes, yes. Yuda, let's continue the topic. Thank you, Welly. So, nyatu tarapa inya Brussels. Ndoba unzanya homosexual in Brussels, where Mugabe wanted, where Peter Tkachel wanted to insert a dildo in Mugabe, and the Pakaitika fight. It was chaotic. Anyway, let's leave it. I saw Idi Mnangagwa going to Brussels for Africa Union and European Union summit. These two continents, Africa and Europe, they discuss certain things in common. Europe is a very small continent as compared to Africa, but probably one of the richest continents in our history. So they have got business to discuss. EU summit, most of the time, ndokunozobva investors vamwe vakuona confidence dzine nyika idzodzi vachienda mabusiness vachiemploya vanhu. Are you live or I am live now. Bla yuda kuruse kwakasi ndakasimba adala wegonyimbi ndofarira adala wegonyeti vachingopinda vanobva vashare, so the message spread. It's very important we share this video so that they reach wherever we want them to reach. Some people can take them, cut them and send them in batches so that they reach the rural folk. Because what I'm going to talk about today is very important, very, very important. I'm talking about the issue of sanctions. That Africa Union and the European Union, they're meeting in Brussels recently, where they discussed the issues about how issues happening in Africa, issues happening in Europe. After they discussed those issues, they sat down different presidents discussing people vachitama concessions, vachisainirana kuti ndikutumira businessmen to your country to come and do this and that in your country. But surprisingly, our president came from Brussels empty-handed, and he came with the extension of sanctions. The sanctions were extended instead of those sanctions to be removed. Sanctions against Mnangagwa's administration have been extended. The reason cited by the European Union is Mnangagwa failed to take meaningful steps to uphold human rights in our country and ensure justice for serious abuses primarily committed by the security forces in 2021. So the European Union is clear on these matters of human rights abuses, and Mnangagwa has failed as a president in our country to take meaningful steps to make sure that those rights of Zimbabweans are respected. And it's now proved Africa is the biggest continent on the planet. Yes, it's the biggest continent. And Osaka arguita hasha ibens because they asked him a very good question. Where is Itai Dzamara? What have you done about Itai Dzamara's disappearance? Up to now, nothing has happened. You understand? So if you look at it, there has been no accountability for abuses, especially by security forces. including the August 2018 post-election violence or post-election violence and the killings and the rape during the January 2019 protests, abductions, torture, arbitrary arrests, and other abuses against opposition politicians and activists have not been meaningfully investigated. You understand? So the problem is, these issues are the issues that have been said time and again to ZANU-PF government, that look, please investigate these human rights abuses. Have accountability of all these human rights abuses, because you have signed the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, that you abide by this, you abide by that, you abide by that. If you fail to abide by that, then the consequences are that you can be put on sanctions. So everything that Mnangagwa is at, he knows everything. He knows what he's doing. But Mr. Yuda, I personally don't think it's gone. The issue of sanctions always fascinates me. Nobody among the ZANU-PF allies are number far akafa nenzara because of sanctions. It's always the ordinary Zimbabweans that suffer, and it's always the ordinary Zimbabweans that has got power to remove ZANU-PF, to remove those who are not suffering on sanctions. Those who are on sanctions, they don't suffer because they are using sanctions as a stepping stone to looting. So those ordinary Zimbabweans who are suffering, those Zimbabweans who are suffering are the Zimbabweans who should come together and say no to sanctions. When you say no to sanctions, you are saying no to ZANU-PF, because ZANU-PF is the party that invited sanctions. So because they are refusing to take meaningful steps to see that human rights are to uphold human rights in our country, ZANU-PF is failing to take steps to ensure that justice for serious abuses justice is done. A good example, we have got people who have been abducted. The Mcheyiwas, Vanama 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗃 Vese, Vana Cecilia Chimbira, Vana Joanna Mamumbe. A lot of people have been abducted in our country, and no meaningful investigations have ever been done or ever said. Mkuma obizvili say. So all the torture that we saw, Magaro, Mpana Inzi, Mcheyiwa Agaroa Magaro, Esa Kwatuka. Mr. Yuda, you have views more than ZANU-PF. Thank you so much, Mgoma Tinashe, Sagomba. Thank you, Mwanama. So what we are saying, because what we are discussing here is exactly what is happening in Zimbabwe. People, Mnangagwa achichema, kutichamisa ata violence, instead of him to calm down and calm down. Chamisa arikutichi otaurira vanhu zvaakafambira kuBrussels. Mnangagwa never said anything. Why he went to Brussels? What they discussed in Brussels? What are the benefit of the country from that summit? Instead, he is coming guns blaze against the people of Zimbabwe. The same mistake that Mnangagwa did to get these sanctions extended, he is committing a similar error. He doesn't learn. And he doesn't learn. What the EU is just demanding is justice. Stop abductions. Stop torture. Stop arbitrary arrest. Whilst Mnangagwa was in Brussels, his police were busy filming them themselves at Harare Central Police Station beating political activists. And that video went viral. Mnangagwa was in Brussels. You understand? So he is someone who's shooting himself on the foot. He is in Brussels, engaged in a meeting. And then all of a sudden, on the news, we see Zimbabwe Republic Police bashing opponents, political opponents, in the midst of a meeting with the African Union and the European Union countries. And that video, boom, it pops up. Whilst they are discussing issues about human rights abuses in Zimbabwe, as they are busy discussing about that, the Zimbabwe Republic Police is busy bashing people, filming, sending them those films to Brussels to say, look, as long as you talk about it, we will continue to bash these people. Mnangagwa, as soon as he landed at Harare International Airport, threatened to bash Nelson Chamisa. You see, so he doesn't lie, he doesn't learn. And you, I like your courage. Find where is Itai. You da Vunzawa fana wako. You an officer. Thank you so much, Gubu. Itai, inini jangu, Itai ndagamuana. But Patson anakutora. It's very unfortunate that Patson Zamara died. But I sent him everything, every information that I got about Itai Zamara. After being murdered, Itai Zamara akaiswa msaga. Saga racho vakanorasa kumarondera. Nepaprazi pacho ndakatomupa Patson Zamara. Ndakamupa zvese. Akatonhongwa mabhonzo acho akatorwa akaiswa kuparire nyatwa. Ndikamuti enda kuparire nyatwa pane mabhonzo akadai. Enda unobvunza. He never went there. You see, maybe because he was overwhelmed with a lot of information, but I assure you, munhu aive musaga imomo nemapfupa acho, vanhu vakataura reliable sources dzakataura kanzi ndiitai Zamara. And you good mid orosia. Andinoona saka ndakataura all the leads dzandakapiwa dzese because I had to go deep into boys rangu. Ndichibvunza zvakachii chakaitika, vakataura Itai akadzamara akatorwa akabviswa akaendeswa kubread barracks akaiswa pasi macells akabviswa paya akatorwa akaendeswa kugoromonzi akanosvika iko kugoromonzi kusango kuya ndoko akaurayirwa akatobviswa goromonzi akaiswa musaga, saka racho rikanoraswa kumarondera. And akatonhongwa nevakadzi vaitsvaga mombe, vaitsvaga ngirini dzonzi huni. Anoona ndakapa all the information that I managed to raise about Itai Zamara to Patson Zamara. Unfortunately, Patson did not take some things serious. Kana aingofunga kuti vanhu varikuda kutamba nesu, saka ndakangomusira ndikachiita so Patson. Enda pakati unobvunza kuti pane saga here rakabva kumarondera rine mabhonzo. Wotora mabhonzo moita DNA test, uone kuti haasi Itai here. I think by now he got purpose burial. Anzina ndabambi samaita, are you going to answer me? Pindurai, bvunzai mubvunzo wenyu. Problem irikuitika ndeyekuti when I'm explaining certain things, people throw questions. So when people throw questions, for me to engage with the questions whilst explaining certain things, it will become very difficult, ladies and gentlemen. It becomes very difficult. But in the event ndapedza kuexplaina, ndibvunzai mubvunzo ndinopindura. And vanoda kufona vanofona foni iripo 0741 0741177466 iripo iyi. Asaka mapoliticians vari kukeep secrets act. Exactly, it's just that nonsense we sign when tapinda basa zvekunzi official secrets act and so forth. But I did part of my investigation. I go to where angels fear to trade. I traded in there, got all the information that I wanted, and these my remains aivemsagaiwa, they were taken to Parire Nyatwa. Ndikatomuudza kuti akaendeswa kuparire Nyatwa musi wakati, enda paparire Nyatwa unobvunza. Ukabvunza unogona kuwawana mabhonzo kana achiripo, kana asati apuwa purpose burial. Then moitirwa DNA muone kuti haasiri here. Andimona. But our learned colleague Dr. Patson the late never took things seriously because angane his own information yaive nayo. Saka zvainetsa kumuconvinza kuti aite act on our information that we were digging. We were not sleeping, ladies and gentlemen, but we were digging information on daily basis. Taitobvisa mari dzimwe kutotuma vamwe vanhu kutokwira mabhazi kunotsvaga information, but it never materialized. So this is another issue that even the European Union is continuing to extend sanctions against the ZANU-PF government, because they are asking very simple questions. What happened to Itai Zamara? What happened to itai dzamara and it. So you find that sanctions are extended because of these abductions. Sanctions are extended because of torture, arbitrary arrests, and other abuses against opposition politicians and activists, which have not been meaningfully investigated. So the government has yet to establish an independent complaint system as provided for in the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Because that complaint system, it should receive and investigate public complaints against the security forces. Other human rights concerns include a severe water and sanitation crisis, including during the COVID-19 pandemic, forced evictions, and child marriages. All these things have been taken into consideration when considering to say, can we remove sanctions against these targeted individuals, or can we continue with the sanctions? Topora chimwa mteuro. And it more. So, United States of America, United Kingdom, European Union, all renewed targeted sanctions against Zimbabwe for serious human rights abuses by their security forces, corruption, and failure to ensure justice for past abuses is recognized. So this is the problem that you see, government. You see, let's say, gentlemen, that if you go mu criminal codification, yes, Zimbabwe, criminal law or codification and reform, yes, Zimbabwe, Act of 2004, which punishes consensual same-sex conduct. Yanga chibvunzwa pano yaya. Mu Zimbabwe we have got codified law, and that codified law it seeks to punish consensual same-sex conduct between men with up to 1 year imprisonment or a fine or both. This contributes to stigma and discrimination in our country against lesbians, against gays, bisexual, and transgender people. This is Shavundo topic Yavura this Yavura this platform. A lot of questions were being thrown, people accusing each other of being gay, being lesbian. In Zimbabwe, there is a law. The law is restrictive. Ukangoonekwa kunziwa homosexual, you are sentenced to 1 year imprisonment. No matter kuti mabvumirana kuti blazi ngatikisane ngatirareitese, unoenda kujeri for 1 year. Saka those are some of the things zviri kutaurwa nema international countries, vana America, vana European Union, nana United States, kuti those type of laws must not be seen mu constitution yenyika, because they promote stigma. Vana vakakona vanenge vachikutaka nemabwe vachikurowa vachiti gay andiona, it discriminate. So these are some of the laws that the international community are saying they cause stigma, they discriminate people on sexual orientation. So if we say a sentence must be reformed, ano mombe kujeri 7 years. So if you look 𝗧𝗿𝗿𝗂𝗏, but I think it's right, can't born of amen, then later on you feel you're a girl. We are not going to discuss that. I'm sorry, guys. In UK, can I go home? Gubwe mkoma maswera. Hey, ndanonoka but ndapindira. Zvakanaka ipindaiti kurukure. So let's look at the past abuses that are causing sanctions to be continued to be extended. Hanzi namkoma Deni Temba, those secondary killers, we are talking about the real front line. Only alive now is Makedenge, who is now crazy. Definitely, vanhu vazhinji vakauraya vanhu, vazhinji vacho vakapera kufa. Obvious, my brother, ndivo vamwe vasingafanirwi kusekererwa. We are where we are cause of them. Vana Joao nezvimapolicies zvakadhakwa havatauri kwakaenda dzamara. Saka zvinhu zvinorema izvozvo. So let's look at past abuses that the European Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States continue to extend sanctions on Zimbabwe. If we look during 2021, authorities did not take concrete steps to ensure justice and accountability for serious abuses, most of which were committed by the security forces. When we say security forces in our country, we mean the prisons, we mean the police, we mean the Zimbabwe National Army, Air Force, Central Intelligence Organization. These are what we call security forces in our country. President Mnangagwa appointed the 𝗧𝗏𝗂𝗏 Commission of Inquiry to investigate the August 2018 post-election violence, which we all remember. This is why some people still ask about Jimukunaka and so forth, which found that 6 people had died and 35 others were injured because of actions by state security forces. Yet 3 years, let's not say 3 years, that was 2021, that was 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. 4 years later, the authorities have not implemented the commission's recommendations. Mnangagwa was never forced to appoint this 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 Commission, but he did it achiti ndoda kuita inonzi re-engagement with the West. Then he appointed this commission of inquiry, which was led by former South African President 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏. But until today, 2021, 2018, 19, I think 3 years or so years down the line, they have never implemented any of the commission's recommendations, which include to hold to account the members of the security forces responsible for abuses and for compensating the families of those killed or who lost their property. The government was clearly told by the 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 that your security forces has killed people. Regardless that certain individuals were saying these people killed themselves, there were other people, a third party or a third force which was shooting. But this was not found by the 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 Commission. The 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏 Commission found that the security forces were responsible, and they recommended that those people, 6 guys who were shot and killed by that young man who went on kneeling position in front of international journalists, in front of international news, and a Zimbabwe National Army soldier was seen kneeling, adopting a kneeling position, which is a sniper's position, and start sniping people who were running away from the soldiers. That was, this is what is still haunting Zimbabwe, because Mnangagwa was told by 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Commission that what happened during that time was wrong, and those people needed to be compensated. And there are a lot of people who lost even their properties. They needed to be compensated. Until today, nothing from the 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Commission was ever implemented by Emmerson Mnangagwa. And he is the same person who is crying more to say sanctions must go. They write placards, give to women, write placards, give to people. Open fire on our mothers. Yes, something of that sort, which happened daylight. Hazvina kuitika usiku, but masikati machena. That attitude which was adopted by Emmerson Mnangagwa's government, we don't care. They had to adopt a kneeling position and start sniping at fleeing civilians. Anzina mkoma Brighton saruwaka, yuda chokwadi chaunotaura chinorwadza. If we don't say it, because what we are doing in Mkoma Brighton, We are leaving these videos for our children to watch them 1,000 years to come and understand exactly what was happening in 2018, what was happening in 2021, what is happening in 2022. So all these videos, this is why I upload them on YouTube, so that people will still listen to them even after 𝗱𝗵𝗂𝗧 dies. You see, this is very important. We are trying to make history so that people would understand the truth of the matters, not the skewed reports we find from the Herald, where Emmerson Mnangagwa will stand in front of people and say Chamisa has threatened violence against the government. If you go back to listen to Chamisa's whole statement, there is nowhere Chamisa has even spoken about violence against anyone. You understand? So we need to put the record straight. In the event that we die, kids, our children, the future generation, they will write history books from whatever we are saying. That the reason why ZANU-PF government was put on sanctions, it was because of the government was busy torturing people, busy abducting people, busy arresting opposition politicians. You understand? Bashing people on daily basis. And they don't hide when they are doing it. They do it maskati machena, in front of cameras, in front of international journalists. And when they are slapped with the sanctions, they go and cry like babies. They lift my placards. Kutora kunyora mas placards anenge ma building kureba. Washinyora washitaura kuti ma sanctions must go, sanctions must. But you are doing things that invite sanctions. And you accuse other people who don't own the army to say they are inviting sanctions against you. By mere deploying armed soldiers on our streets to shoot innocent civilians and armed ones, you are inviting sanctions. So these sanctions now, they are hating. Then you cry. You cry, you squeal like cats, you mew like cats. As that what I hate to see Furwa Usiruguruisa. Exactly. Something very painful, Mkoma Kuzai Arnold. Something painful, my brother. To watch your father being shot at. To watch your mother being gunned down by Zimbabwe National Army trained soldiers who are trained to defend our country. Instead of defending our country, they are defending politicians, looters, corrupt people. And the army will go shoot all those who are crying, our national resources are being stolen by ZANU-PF. Then the army is deployed to shoot those people. You understand? That's something that is the people of Zimbabwe needs to learn to stand up. So after shooting those people, after killing those people, the government went on to appoint a Motlane Commission, which was headed by former South African president. And the Motlane Commission gave recommendations, said, look, compensate those people you killed. Compensate those people who lost their property because of your soldiers' violence. And Motlane just got 270,000 US dollars and went home. He's seated today watching if Mnangagwa is going to implement what he recommended. And Mnangagwa refused. He has got guts to board a plane, to go to United Nations, to go to European Union AU summit, without settling these things 4 years down the line. You have never implemented any recommendation. But you have got guts to go, to fly there and have negotiations with those leaders. Honestly, they don't turn at you. But they ask you same questions that they asked you in 2018. They will ask you same questions that they asked you in 2020. What have you done with the people you gunned down? Have you compensated them? No. Where is 𝗧𝗿𝗂𝗧𝗲𝗧? Well, you are still dragging to court the women you abducted. You know, if you want to understand about the United Kingdom, uya munominyika muno muchibva kuZimbabwe une mukadzi wako. Murove mbama chete. kwete chibhagera kana urwa netsvimbo. Aiwa, mukadzi wako wakabva naye kuZimbabwe wakabvisira mombe, ukauya naye muno munyika munomu, ukangomurova mbama chete, you go to prison. You go to prison straight away. Kurova mukadzi wako mbama, you go to prison straight away. Uri kunzwa? Chiimagina kuti vakadzi, girls, those are girls. Cecilia, Joanna Mamombe, Nanetsai, those are just girls, mere girls who were abducted. Vakatorwa pamberi pemapurisa. The police were there when these girls were abducted. Vakaenda vakavhurwa makumbo vachibaiwa nhengo dzavo nemuromo wepfuti. You know, such type of treatment. Even if the country is on sanctions, you cannot cry to say 𝗧𝗍𝗻𝗻 sanctions. It's so sad. What I'm saying here is very sad. Things that are not supposed to come from people we pay to protect you. We pay those people to give us security, to protect us, not to poke our private parts or our women's private parts or our sisters' private parts with muzzles of, with the barrels of AK assault rifles, with the muzzles of pistols. We don't do that. So if ZANU-PF people who sponsor that are put on targeted sanctions, then they cry to say, look, the sanctions are hitting us. So the private, Joanna Mamombe's private pass doesn't hurt her. Cecilia Chimbiri's private parts being poked by an AK assault rifle doesn't hurt her. It only hurts ZANU-PF when you are told not to fly and enjoy your money in England. This is something we should consider seriously as people of Zimbabwe. We should consider these issues seriously. Whether you are in the army, whether you are in the police, whether you are a member of the Central Intelligence Organization, whether you are a prison officer, sit down, reflect, consider these things seriously. That you are just walking along 4th Street and you are hit by a bullet shot by an irresponsible soldier. Because if you go in central business district of Harare, you kneel down, adopt a kneeling position with a 30 rounds loaded AK assault rifle and start sniping at people who are fleeing, then you are irresponsible. You are irresponsible. You should be taken to account for your actions. You understand? So there was no attempt to investigate and prosecute other serious violations in our country that the state security forces have committed, including violent attacks, abductions, torture, and other abuses against members of the political opposition and civil rights societies. You understand? As Mr. Yuda, what did the police say about the Mzuri family? I can't remember, Ndabambi. I can't remember. You can remind me. I can't remember. You understand? So, a lot of things, let's say, zvinorwadza asi kuuraya kwavakaiteko zvorwadza izvozvo mukomagivi. You understand? So, Human Rights Watch investigations found that security forces used excessive lethal force to crush nationwide protests in January 2019. Local groups reported that security forces fired live ammunition that killed 17 people. And the uniformed soldiers went door to door raping women. 17 women were reported raped during and after those protests. No security personnel have ever been arrested or prosecuted. After killing 6 people on the 1st of August 2018, Mnangagwa's government went on to kill 17 more people on the 14th of January 2019. And almost 17 women were raped. if sanctions are extended and some people are saying it's wrong, sanctions must be removed, how about the 17 people who were shot and killed by the security forces on the 14th of January 2019? Were they ever compensated? Watching for 𝗧𝗿𝗴𝗲𝗦𝗃𝗂𝗃 how are you? How are you, my brother? How about those people, 6 people who were shot and killed on the 1st of August 2018? I am not talking about those who were killed in 2008 and those who were killed in 1982 up to 1985 or 87. I don't call them Ndebele people, no. I call them Zimbabweans who were killed during Gukurahundi era. Not even one today was ever compensated. 2008 violence, so many people killed by the army, not even one was compensated. 2018, not even one was compensated. 2019, not even one was compensated. And I'm Brighton Sarwaga Yuda Ogatumwa Nashe kuvaudza chokwadi. Definitely, let's make the record straight. So those people, there is a trend in ZANU-PF government. They know that even if we kill, we are not we cannot be taken accountable. And they don't care whether 1,000 people are shot and killed. They don't just care. What they simply want is to protect the looters to continue looting our country. Because those people who are looting, from the commander-in-chief of the defense forces, is the same person who deploys the army to go and kill innocent people, to silence you. When you are silent and you fear, you've got more fear, you cannot go again into the streets and protest. By so doing, these people will continue to steal. They will continue to loot. At the end, you will catch up, my sister, don't worry. And we love you, Weber. Jamai, thank you. Yuda, you should release prisons when you are on duty. Thank you, Gubwe. Thank you so much. So you see what I'm saying here. We have got a lot of unresolved cases in which there has been no accountability, including these abductions I have just stated, including the torture of even teachers union. You remember that guy from Teachers Union, or Obed Masarure? You remember about Gonyet, Samantha Kureya Gonyet? She was abducted. How big Gonyet is. Samantha Kureya Gonyet, how big that girl is. How do you compensate life? Only justice is proper compassion. No money can compensate loss of life. Definitely, Cindy, Atede Cindy, you are 100% right. Dictatorial tendencies kuchikisa vanhu vauri kutungamira. Anditi maona. So Yuda, vabvisirwa sanctions avo zvinoreva change here munyika yeadvantages iripo? Hakuna change iriko, hakuna. Andimona. Saka, you will find, I was talking about Gonyet. I think I'm twice smaller than Gonyet. Ukatasa one Zamura Gonyet one rinenge msoro wangu. Right, we are not talking about body shaming, yeah, Gonyet, but I am talking about features a woman has: breasts, big bums, and a lot of things that we are not privileged to discuss here. And some members of Central Intelligence Organization had guts to strip naked Gonyet and make her walk naked. Gonyet was stripped naked and was let walk naked. Varume vakuru vakatarisa. Probably they raped her. and munhu chinhu chinorwadza kumukadzi kukutaurira kuti ndakarepwa. Mukadzi anofa hake zviri mudundundu zviri mumwoyo, achichemera mudundundu achichemera mumwoyo achitaura ndakarepwa. Very few women can come out open to say I was raped, and most of those who come out open to say I was raped vanenge vachida kufixa ma-ex lovers, vachida kufixa ma-jilted lovers and so forth. But the real victims of rape, very few will come out and say I was raped. 90 or 80% of most women in our country are victims of rape. So what I'm saying here is we have got a lot of unresolved cases. Cases of torture, cases of rape or abduction and torture. A good example, ana Obeti Masarure. Vana Gonyeti vatukutara nezvavo. Vana Tatenda Mumbeyarara. Nemfana Tawanda Mcheiwa. Mfana takuzwa ngadzore akaabductwa pakamera makatarisa. Munhu wese akatarisa takuzwa ngadzore achitorwa achiendwa naye kunopondwa. And can we direct access to contact details of the president? Timbovatumira mibvunzo and video. They don't allow him. ZANU-PF really knows that the man is not intelligent to answer those questions. Killing and torture is barbaric issue. Edi Mnangagwa, he is just a ceremonial president. There are other presidents behind who just push him. This is why you see they to call him back to say Dzoka utonge, because they know kuti haasiri ari kuya kuzotonga, vanhu vakabvisa Mugabe ndo vari kutonga. When Mugabe was removed, Idi anga atiza kuurawa neZANU. He was in South Africa. When Mugabe was removed, he was just invited to come and lead a section of ZANU-PF, but he was not there when Mugabe was removed. So it means he has got no powers. He's just a stooge there. He's someone who's just thrown into the fray, but without proper power to determine the direction of the country. So if we say, ZANU-PF, can you put Emmerson Mnangagwa on television so that we phone and ask him questions? They don't allow it. Last time we proposed that if you go to America, you will find the president of America and the opposition leader debating on television. Democratic countries allow their president to debate on television. So we said, can we put Emmerson Mnangagwa and Chamisa together to debate on television and see who is the people's choice? We said, where's some opposition leaders? Let's put them on platform. Let them debate and tell us what they are going to do for us. So ZANU-PF avoid that, because they know they have been there for 42 years, 43 years. They have got no promises anymore. They've got nothing to debate and nothing to offer. They can't allow that to happen. And what happened to parents here in SBMO? 𝗱𝗏𝗏𝗂𝗏. Those guys were given 𝗱𝗏𝗏𝗏 because akuna by way of COVID mu cabinet yosvika youraya parents shiri chete COVID yenda kuprison unouraya zimondi chete unoseka nhamo serugara. So you will find that all these unresolved cases are the cases that have caused the extension of these sanctions. So if you see these sanctions continue to be extended like this, that means they are not going to be removed anytime soon. Mark my words. They are not going to be removed anytime soon. So it does not help for ZANU-PF to use more money to print posters and say sanctions must go. They can say sanctions must go until Jesus comes. These sanctions will never go. Even if Chamisa comes to power and fail to resolve these issues, the sanctions will continue. So a man who is going to form the next government must ensure that all these things are addressed. If they are addressed, then these sanctions will go. But it's a policy of the European Union. It's a policy of America. It's a policy of the United Kingdom. They want to see justice done. If no justice is done, even if Chamisa comes to power, the sanctions will continue until all these investigations are done. If you look at in May 2020, I was talking about the 3 girls when we were still in the MDC, when we were still MDC Alliance. And Pindura Yuda Gubo wati kanda kwesene yacho futi ndione yandi njenga. I was talking about Cecilia Chimbiri, Netsai Maroa, and the Member of Parliament Joanna Mamunda. Munombo zivai roti Member of Parliament hasi muna anungu sungwa. Kuti Member of Parliament anzita msunga panapa, panofana kwe pachitiparo involve ma senior police officers who will give a nod to say, okay, pick him up. Hasi muna anungu nongwa mroad wendu wanayonzi bisa burugu wachibaiwa nengo yake. Muna no respect. Honestly speaking, Mukoma, you give us a reason to hold on, a reason to have hope, keep shining. Thank you, Ados. Hey, it will take time to resolve order in Zimbabwe, youth. So this is why we are saying, if we manage to change government now, whoever comes, whether Chamisa wins or whoever wins the election, we need to push hard to that person to say, if you need a next term in our country, please can you resolve these issues so that we clean our country and we remove the sanctions. The only political party can have sanctions removed at this juncture, it is ZANU-PF. If they arrest and if they just choose to be accountable, to make sure that they take charge of their acts, give us Itai Dzamara, investigate all these human rights abuses, sanctions will go today. Even if they declare Itai Dzamara has died, here are his remains, and the person who killed Itai Dzamara is so and so and so, that's it. Sanctions will go today. Sanctions will go. So if you look at Vaskano Tuktaurao, they were abducted from police custody. This is what worsens sanctions. This is what triggers anger when it comes to human rights abuses. That Cecilia Netsai and Joanna Mamumbe, they were abducted from police custody. The police confirmed that they had arrested them and later denied that they've got them in custody. Their vehicle was parked at police station. That means these girls were abducted from police custody by suspected state agents for taking part in a protest in Harare. The police confirmed that they had picked them up and later denied when they were taken away by state agents. They were assaulted and sexually abused by their abductors. Then they were dumped in Bindura, 80 kilometers from Harare. Their car was parked at Harare police station and they were found 80 kilometers away. So whilst receiving treatment for their injuries, the 3 were arrested at the hospital bed and charged with making false reports about their abduction. At the time of riot, you understand? They were arrested. Vari pambeda, vachigomera at that time. The state, instead of investigating a serious case of abduction, they went on to arrest them, put them in prison for making false abduction reports. the state forgets that initially the police had admitted that we had locked them up, we had picked them up. And later on, after pressure, they said they refused, we don't have them in custody. And they were found 80 kilometers away in Bindura. So if it means sanctions for failure to protect citizens, Zimbabwe as a country has got a duty to protect its citizens. So failure to do that. If sanctions anga kusungwa ne sanctions shwi musachema. And beware of the false ZANU-PF people who come but inwardly hanzi kunge murwere ndarwadziwa zvakaoma. Saka ukada kutarisa some of the things that these countries include, we are a 43-year-old country which gained independence in 1980 on the 18th of April. That's a day we declared independence. 43 years down the line, we still have a shanty town known as 𝗱𝗆𝗻 in Harare. And a president of a country who has been there in government for 43 years has got guts to go and hold a rally at 𝗱𝗆𝗻. Ndoboona madhara haanyari. 43 years after independence, we have got someone who goes to a shanty town in Harare to go and hold a rally. As yes, Mr. Ida, president, only 10 years and no go for 42 years. That's true. And the Musasiya rigging of elections. Thank you, Matand. So what I'm saying is, ZANU-PF has got no shame. 43 years of independence, they've got guts to go and hold a rally in 𝗱𝗆𝗻, a shanty town. 43 years of independence. 𝗱𝗆𝗻 ingadai yakadhiriswa kudhara. Dzimba dzavaitaura 1.5 million maflats anzi tinoda kuvakira vanhu. Ndaitofunga pamwe varutanga kuvakira vanhu vari ku𝗱𝗆𝗻. Kuenda kuvanhu vari ku𝗱𝗆𝗻 votanga kuvagredhera road vachiva pamastands zviri proper vachivaka dzimba kuti pavanosvika kana pa2023 vanotiudza kuti chitarisai taane town itsva inonzi 𝗱𝗆𝗻. Hakusina ashandi town takagadzira takaita zvakati. They never did that. Instead, they went to 𝗱𝗆𝗻 and held a rally and he promised the title deeds in those newspaper houses, thatched houses muHarare. And the Pharaoh nets aone samoto. So what we are doing, what we are saying is, during 2021, Gorra 1920-21, Gorra Pera, hundreds of thousands of residents of Zimbabwe's capital Harare, including nearby municipalities Akarasana, Chitungwiza and 𝗱𝗆𝗻, continued to face a potable water crisis 3 years after deadly cholera outbreak. When we had cholera outbreak, the government should have sanitized. Hey, my fool, hello. Noise achiri kubuda pa yakanyanya. Vana vari kutamba. So sorry guys. So you find that 3 years after cholera outbreak, yakauraya vanhu vakawanda muZimbabwe cholera. That deadly cholera, taitofunga the government ichata something about clean water, about sanitation in our country. They never did anything. Boldness over zviri say fish. They never did anything. The authorities in Central and the Harare seat, they failed to ensure clean water is available to the people. When we say the authorities, we mean the government. All councils are under the government. Hakuna council inozvimirira yega segovernment. Dai Harare iri nyika yakazvimirira yega, ingadai ine government yayo. But Harare is just a city iri under ZANU-PF government. Andrugona. As idipe Satan zvake zviri pachena. So several factors, ladies and gentlemen, have contributed to the city's severe water problem, including economic decay, Harare City Council is not a government. It's a city council under ZANU-PF, under the same economy that we are crying about. So this economic decay has caused this lack of water and lack of sanitation. Sometimes people might want to blame droughts affecting 𝗬𝗏𝗏, but 𝗬𝗏𝗏 hasati ambopera. Pana akamboenda kuchivero dam kwataibata hoyo kuchibhero. Pana akamboona akapwa here 𝗬𝗏𝗏. Since ndakatanga kuziva 𝗬𝗏𝗏, ndakagara kuna kuchivero kuya kwandakagara nguva dzehondo. Hondo ikapera. Chigara kunotoni kuyakwe. Haana kubva ambopwa, haina kubva yambopwa ngrini lake 𝗬𝗏𝗏. Haina kubva payakambopwa mvura. People might want to blame drought, but hapana payakapwa mvura. So the ZANU-PF say drought dammed water supply to Harare. There's a lack of infrastructure to water 𝗳𝗧𝗍. Inability between the central government and the ruling party and the opposition controlled city council and corruption. What I can only say is corruption. Because if you look at ZANU-PF, when it staffs Harare City Council, staff yacho yese zhinji iriko ndiye ZANU-PF. Makanzu saka uchiona vanhu vemuHarare vachivhotera macancelors eMDC to keep check on those thieves. It doesn't necessarily mean kuti macancelors eMDC aivhoterwa vanogona sterek basa, but was to keep check of those ZANU-PF employees deployed in that townhouse, so that vasanyanyoba. And that's true. Mkomaida sure ichiri nguva yekumanikidza vanhu to attend the rallies. Honestly, no one wants to attend their rallies. Ukatarisa mambuya, if chinondirwadza ZANU-PF kana ichita marallies aya, they busy mambuya, vanoswera kuoma miromo vakagara. Ukatarisa chembere dziri suppose kuzorora dzaperaura ndo dzinenge zichizuzurudzirwa kumarari. Hanzi nhasi tatine 10 million people. ZANU-PF will be shocked 2023. And they want to be in power only, and after every 5 years they blame sanctions. It's so sad. So the water crisis which is affecting Harare residents right now, and the sanitation that you see affecting Harare residents, including their rights to life, their rights to food, their rights to good health, it has been infringed by ZANU-PF government. Many common water resources, my wells, my taps, and my boreholes, deep narrow wells, are all contaminated. All contaminated, Harare. Despite these known effects of contaminated water, there is no specific official information on which water resources are safe in our country. Living residents of Harare to take their chances. Varikupera kufa. And pakabva pauya COVID. Imagine, inindakairwara. COVID was all about utsanana, kugeza maoko chaiko. Hello. Is everything okay? Sure. No, good boy. I'll give you phone when I finish. Which one? This one? Yeah. Okay, you can take that one. And close my door. And the Muranya to Tara, guys. I can't hear. Notice. Because in the application before I go on. Please. Come on, don't worry. No, don't worry. Huh? I'll do with mine tomorrow, my new one. Okay. That's okay. You just wanted to disturb me. I just wanted to say I'll be going soon. Alright, no problem. Alright. Enjoy your birthday. My daughter's birthday today, yeah? Enjoy my birthday. Yes. My special day. Tena nandos mangwala. Sorry guys, as Majgira Tondi Smith said the same thing. Only wise, young, untainted, focused future leaders shall unlock that 100 years case ndimi wana Eustace maingoti zanu mfana anondorwadza stere. Very intelligent young man who lack foresight. Eustace Kanyemba, very intelligent young man, but he lacks foresight. As you must organize security force to protect our vote 2023. Definitely, we need to protect our vote. So you find that Zimbabwe suffered COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 pandemic changa chiri chirwere chaida utsanana, kugeza maoko chete nekutora alcohol, zora maoko, kofa ka COVID chete ndozvaingodiwa paya. But you find that a lot of people died. Munozati atingo muno UK mune tendency yakaipa one. Chakauraya vanhu vemunomu vakawanda chi. Because munomodya sadza nefork and knife. Kona mazimba achidya sadza mudzimba umu havageze maoko. Vanorova fork and knife. Hapana panogezwa maoko. Varungu vanodya fish and chips vanorova fork and knife. Because vona vaya zvibhonda zvemurodhi zvezvo ndo zvinenge zvakabata chicken and chips zvichiruma. You understand? Saka muno makanyanyofiwa nenyaya yeutsanana nekutadza kugeza maoko nevisa alcohol. KuZimbabwe hazviri kuti vanhu vaitadza kugeza maoko. Kwakusina mvura yekugeza maoko. And a lot of people died. And instead of that, Mnangagwa's government, instead of cautioning or assist those people during pandemic, he just took people, Zvirema Mapofu, Chi, locked them in the houses, declared lockdown. No water, no food, no medication, and nothing. A lot of people died in Zimbabwe unaccounted. If you ask Zimbabwe government how many people died of COVID, you can't go out. There is a network yakuda kutanga, guys. Mondregero. Network ameno zvairi kuita. But zvatiri kutaura panapa mazvinzo. COVID pandemic. People were locked inside the houses without food, without water, with nothing, no medication. A lot of people died inside their houses. If you ask ZANU-PF today how many people died of COVID, they don't have a correct figure. Vamwainzi vari kufa nemararia. Imagine COVID, indakairwara COVID. Unoita semunhu ane malaria. Saka government yakapedzisira yakuti 80 people died of malaria. You understand? It's irresponsible. And I will tell you about Zamara soon. Thanks, Mkoma, anyway. Thank you so much. So you see the other issues that are being considered by European Union, America, and the United Kingdom when they look at issues of sanctions. If you look at 26 February, in February 2021, ZANU-PF, which controls, this is why I'm saying ZANU-PF controls all the local government, urban and the rural development, rural development projects. July Moyo is the minister who published a legal notice in 2021 February ordering thousands of people to either acquire fresh rights of use or occupation or immediately vacate approximately 12,940 hectares of Chilonga communal land in Chiredzi, southeast of Zimbabwe, Chiredzi, kupasuko kuchiredzi. That legal notice, statutory instrument 50 of 2021, which the government later repealed or replaced, said the land was being set aside for lucerne grass production, farming grass for stock feed. You don't respect human life. ZANU-PF does not respect human life. Vari kudzinga vanhu mucommunal land yavakagara since time immemorial kuti vada kurima huswa hwekufidha mombe. Chilonga community members went to court, which ordered the arbitral evictions to be stopped until the government provides alternative land, compensation or shelter. If you look at the indigenous communities also faced evictions to make way for mining. Nana mtoko zvitakataura nezuro. And the commercial farming projects in 2021. This included kuenda kudinde communal kuwango. Vanhu vakabviswa. Chinzi pada kuitwa mai, pada kucherwa marasha. Ukaenda kuchipinge kwa mtoko kuruturwa matombo. Unana chipinge kusvika kuchivhu kwesoko. Vanhu vaibviswa. These are forced evictions, which are looked at by such countries like United Nations, America, Europe, because vanhu vari kurwadziswa havana munhu wokuti vanonoripota kuti hurumende yatidai. Mobviswa pamusha pamakakurira kunzi paroda kurimwa uswa hwokupa mombe. So you will find in Chivu hundreds of villagers face eviction from their ancestral land to pave a way for 12,000 hectares iron and steel mining project by a third Chinese company. Varume. Then people say these sanctions are wrong. These sanctions must go. Varume. During 2021, the authorities failed to fully enforce the ban on child marriages, exposing millions of underage girls to abuse. Ndopa debate wana komichi vachitaura kuti hanzi there is no problem kurora mwana ne 12 years as long as pane consent. Ladies and gentlemen, a landmark 2016 constitutional court decision declared those child marriages unconstitutional and set 18 as the minimum marriage age for girls and boys without exception. Kana mwana asvika 18 musikana anenge aibva ndipo vanonakidza kutamba navo ka. Isakaroora vachiri vadika unoziva kuti kutamba nemusikana ane 18 years kunonakidza sei. Wakutamba nemunhu aakuziva no age yekuti musikana anenge achirida kuexperimenta zvese. Ukaroora ipo unonakirwa nemusikana. Andi muri kuona. A 14-year-old girl tikada kuzvitarisa kwamarango forced into marriage and died during childbirth. Kwamarango. Igore rapera muna July pazvakaitika. Zvinhu zvinorwadza. Andimona. Saka ukatarisa nyaya yacho yese pane atoti makey international actors. Ukatarisa muna February gore rapera. Igore rapera February. Pakarohwa Owen Mudangue, Anselm Sanyatwe, Godwin Matanga na Isaac Moyo kumasiya yoyo. Vakomana 4 vakabva vanzi zvambo nema-sanctions. They were put on targeted sanctions for being responsible for serious human rights violations. Unoona rimwe benzi rakanyora placard kudai kuti Owen Mudangue ngaabviswa pama-sanctions kana Isaac Moyo ngaabviswa pama-sanctions. How about the human rights abuses that they are involved in? In July, the United Kingdom imposed sanctions on President Mnangagwa's advisor. Kudata gwirei. Akazo kudata gwirei watu kutaura nezvaye. Anonzi kuda kwashe regiment tagwirei. Ndiye akataurira Katsande the ambassador weZimbabwe kuno. Kutusungisa munhu anonzi William Chinyanga. William Chinyanga is being persecuted by Kudakwashe Tagwirei and Katsande, the ambassador to the United Kingdom. Ndo vakareportera Chinyanga vachishandisa British police kuti Chinyanga arutaura nyaya dzokuti tibomberwe mamanhingirine edu filling station edu nekuti tiri sponsor violence. And Mdara Katsande, Keno Katsande is the one who put a police report for the Chinyanga to be arrested. And this was instigated by Kudakwashe regiment Tagwirei. And then but the British government he's the same person here who is corrupt, who is corrupting the judiciary system in the UK and the police force. to arrest Chiyanga kuti Chiyanga is a terrorist. That same person, his actions accelerated the deflation of Zimbabwe currency. Zimbabwe. Increasing the price of essentials such as food for Zimbabwe citizens. Ukaona chikafu chichikwira chinodeterminwa nefuel. And iye ndiye anounza fuel munyika. Ndiye the fuel yakada kuitengesa neprice yakati anodetermina kuti zvinokwira. Saka kana chitaura Zimbabwe tikutaura tagwirei. Ndiye munhu watutaura ndiye Zimbabwe. Imagine Zimbabwe yakabatwa nemunhu wana anonzi tagwirei. Varumeka. The European Union on 19th of February, it renewed its arms embargo and it targeted asset freeze against Zimbabwe defense industries, a state-owned military company. The EU said the restrictive measures were in light of the continued need to investigate the role of security force actors in human rights abuses, as well as concerns about a proliferation of arrests and the prosecution of journalists, opposition actors, and individuals expressing dissent views. The EU, Britain, United Kingdom, we have got one person who has got a dissenting view, who has been arrested by the British government, and who is under trial for terrorism. Nenyaya yekuti autaurira vanhu kuti paradzai upfumi hwatagwirei, iye tagwirei uyu ari kuparadza nyika. Tagwirei naKenne Okatsande obva wataura maiwe muterrorist, maiwe mapurisa sungai. They are corrupting British police. Hanzi Muchinguri ati sisika wina 23 vanopinda musango. Sekuru try. Opa Muchinguri kana mukatomutarisa imimi. She can no longer jump high 2 inches. Munhu atutaura naye kuti arida kuenda ati anopinda musango cannot jump 2 inches. Cannot run a meter. Ndakataura nezvo kuti musi unofa mbuya Opa Muchinguri vanopuwa coffin rakaita wai kudai. She has never shut her legs ever since. Probably the day we will see her legs shut is the day when she dies. And on that day we will advocate for a wai coffin. Ndora anovigwa naro. Akaisa rimwe gumbo uko, rimwe gumbo. Tochera toviga. Akusira adzachena kwese kwese. Beta vagare kumusango macho. Hakuna sango raachaenda uya. Uya kana ati sango anongobatwa sehuku kwiyo mubata chizonono, mubata chichigaramanhenga, munodhonza nechigaramanhenga chake. Kune varume vakuru vaidaro kuti azviite nyika ndeyangu ya kuna kwainoenda. Taive nevarume vakuru vaita saSaddam Hussein. Mbuya Muchinguri is not as powerful as Saddam Hussein. Mbuya Muchinguri is not as powerful as Mama Gaddafi. Vaive nearmy yaityisa. Kwete tumasoja twedu Zimbabwe tinopfura masivhiri enu tunoenda nemhepo. Musoja wekuZimbabwe ukaona kachifamba kana kachipupurutswa nemhepo kane nzara kanoora $80. $80 ndo mari inoorwa nemusoja wekuZimbabwe. Haikwani kudya achiguta. Achifamba anenge achipupurutswa nemhepo apo. Ndiye ari kutembwa naOpa Muchinguri toenda kuhondo iyeye. Kwaive nemasoja unoziva kuti ukaenda kuIraq nekuLibya, masoja eko pavanotrenwa panenge pane munhu anonzi dietitian. Panotrenwa masoja panenge pane munhu anonzi dietitian anenge achirekomenda food inodyiwa nemasoja inovaka muviri wemusoja. It doesn't make him fat, it doesn't make him thin, it makes him strong. KuZimbabwe haufa kuona dietitian achiudza masoja kuti chikafu chinodyiwa ndechakati. Vanenge vachinzi dyai muriwo vachifa nebinzi nemakabichi. Iye mudhara wacho achidya mazondo. Haungataure kasoja kakadaro kuti pinda musango unondirwira because ndadyiwa election. andanonoka mukoma Sylvester maamuri kupiko mudara wangu hanzi rambai makabaya mukuru 𝗃𝗃 to the fullest. Thank you 𝗃𝗃. Saka zvake yake nhoroondo yekuti anodzokera musango tozviona musi wacho dzokera tete akakutarisa unozati mbuya muchinguri kakiti so kandi kakatasa pamira kanenge kachiona shumba kachizvita shumba musi wacho ndo anoona kuti haasi shumba musi iwoyo ndo anoona kuti haasi shumba ikiti ndatopedza nemi nezuro ndakakuverengerai meseji yakabva kune vakuru vane misodza vaitaura zvovaitaura ndopa achaona upa muchinguri reality. Mugabe never thought, never saw it happening. Mugabe never saw it coming. He was shocked. Mugabe dera akanzi masoja ako vakanga vakakugadha pano pa State House ndo vakatokukomba panzapo ukaita nharo tipindai murove kombai murove. Mugabe was shocked. He almost died. These people, they put me in this state because he never believed it. That those soldiers who were wearing mabareta a color banana, vaifamba vari battalion vachimukomba, were now surrounding his residence. Apasina kana wani pfuti yakanongedzera kunze, dzese dzakanongedzera mu State House kudai kunzi ibva. Saka the day is the day mbuya opa muchinguri will see reality. Let her try it. Tulani wakama mpofula wayo. Thanks Mkoma wangu, we love you. Thank you Mkoma Tulani, thank you so much. Ngapi ndake Mkoma. Anymore. So it's up to them to die for the country if they are defeated. If they are defeated, then they're to die for it. If they choose to die because they are defeated, we don't hesitate to kill them. And the soldiers will just shoot them if they try an uprising. Because the soldiers will be protecting the winner. It's very unfortunate. If they choose to die because they've been defeated in an election, then they will die. They will die, I'm telling you. Ukatasa mbuya muchinguri tasa mutsipa wake aufokwana mune nyama yakadai so zvazvimadzira kadai so madzira chete fesi yese yaunyana iyi kawatarisa kufukwa ndiye musikana ainzi musikana wanhingirinin wainzi ayonzi opa muchinguri Rushesha blazo yainzi Rushesha wakafukwa ndiye aka musikana kakoti kabva kwatongogara kachibva kanamirana naRushesha kakanamirana na kashiri ane chimwe chidhara chinonzi kashiri choti kachitika mudhara kashiri jumper just 30 centimeters cannot okutaurira munhu akadaro anoenda kuhondo enda kuhondo, we will be waiting for you. Go to war, we don't mind. If you decide to go to war, go to war and you see it. This is my message to Opam Chinguri. If you threaten people to say if you lose 2023 you will go to war, then go to war. Then you will see us. Ndopaona kuti hondo aingonzwa unzi kuZimbabwe vana Opa Muchinguri vaingonzwa kuti vanhu muri kuona kubva panapa vari kunorwa hondo kuZimbabwe. She has never been pafront achiona hondo ichirwiwa, never in a day. Akari maofisi uku vari vana chimbwido kumaofisi vachaira maofisi vari vana maimponesi vanatongogara muhondo haana kubva ambomutsika muhondo tongogara chaiye tongogara. Paakabviswa akunzi wewe chienda kufront akachema akati ndikaenda kufront ndikunofa nokuti havandizivi. Tongogara has never been pafront panorwa hondo kakapfuti achipostwa nepfuti, not even a day. Opa Muchinguri has never been to war, not even a day. Vanhu vaimhanya nemaofisi vachibhombana vachikuwadzana vachibana nepfuti musango kunana Mozambique vachitadza kuya kuzorwisa mabhunu. And we need a verified voters roll in Zimbabwe. Ndopa ndiri kuenda ipapo ndiri kunobabata Mkoma Sidhi mirai muone. Andiri muona And thanks 𝗬𝗏𝗀𝗃 with your analysis will help us keep it. An update nevanhu vakaita accident. Thank you so much. Handina kuzotenda kuvana veZimbabwe vakatibatsira. Vanhu vese vakaita accident, they were treated, they are recovering at home. Handina kuzotaura nahonorable mushori wanonzi kuti zvakamira sei, but vadzaingochema nemari hatina kunyatsoona mari yakati titenge mishonga and so forth. But let me say, kuvanhu vakatibatsira, murambe makadaro, mwari wakubatsira, mwari wakukomborerei. Also vanhu vatibatsira pana madzibaba vegemenzi reYellow, masendi tatumira mari, masendi aenda. Kune vamwe vakati vari kusenda direct kwavari. I hope vaitawo saizvozvo. Ngonda receive one message yabva kuna someone asenda direct kwaari akati mukoma Yuda ndasenda. Saka I hope vakatibatsira vese pana mukoma. Unoziva ndataura naye manhero anaya, ndamufonera direct. Zvikanzi matondibata leader kwata ndiri kwakusina network. Ndikati muri kubva kupiko baba? Zvikanzi ndiri kubva kumvurwi tachinamira maposters. Ndikati zvikanzi ndiri kutosvika izvozvi kumba, asi unfortunately ndangosvika ndinzwa kuti vana vadzingwa kuchikoro. Uza murume uyo anondichemedza so. Ndatosvika nditonzwa kuti hanzi vana vadzingwa kuchikoro. Saka nemasenda amatotumira aya, mangwana ndakutomuka ndonobhadhara school fees yacho. Yasara ipa mwoda ndichabudirira kuendawo kuGokwe. Ndotengawo shuga, ndichada kuenda kuGokwe. Vanhu veGokwe vati vari kundida. Varoda ndivabatsire kumacampaigns. kuBulawayo vanhu vati vari kundida. Andimaona. Chinozonetsa nje kuti asvikako kwa vanhu vakumusha. Hanzi pandakakufunga isande. Handina kana kudya kana anything kubva kuseni. Majambiro adzaita dzichitamba dzichisimudza mudonzvo dzichiburitsa mashave ezano muvanhu. Hanzi handina kana chandakadya kana. Ate nothing. After that ndoshaya mari yebhazi yekuenda nekudzokera kuGurwe. Hanzi pandosvika kunoku vana vanonge vachinditarisa kuti kusaka mudhara munofirei. Ndikati ndiri kufira nyika. Unoziva murume uyo so anochemedza so. But anyway, regai ndipe kutenda kune vatambanudza maoko avo, kuti Mwari varambe dai Mwari vachiona kuti vanhu vanopaka ndo vanofanira kuramba vachipawo. Akaona kuti mumwe munhu asati ambopa upenyu hwake, akangotarisa chete, hazviro kuti haana anenge anayo, asi kuti apewo abatsire. Bhosi hondo yatiri kurwa iyi haisi hondo. Inini ndakataura ndikati Zimbabwe kana ikanzi yasununguka nhasi vachamisa vaita president, I don't need to go to Zimbabwe and work there. No. Kune vanhu vasiri kushanda namabasa. Atingaite seZANU-PF yakatora vataniki mangwana kubva kumabasa kuti uyai mushande kuZimbabwe. KuZimbabwe kwacho kune marovha. Vese vamuri kuona 90% yevanhu veZANU-PF vanenge vakaunganidzwa pamarovha. And they don't reason kuti isi tiri marovha, but munanga gwanotora munhu ari kuEngland ari kuzvishandira, ari kugeza chembere dzake kuEngland, odzoka unzi shuwa ushande kunoku iwe. Isusu tiri kuno kwacho hatisi kupuwa mabasa. Ndakati vachamisa vakadaro vanomhanyiswa nevanhu kuseni. Kana kuShepherd achizodiwa kuzoshanda kuZimbabwe, I'm the last resort. Vanhu vapera kushanda. Why ndadaro? Vachamisa vakati kuna Mnangagwa, zvikanzi create a leader of the opposition in parliament. You want to employ Chamisa. Ndikukumbira vaMnangagwa kuti tangai mamboemploya 99.9%. Kana vapera vese vane mabasa mozondita leader of the opposition in parliament ndinouya. Ndopa unoona kuti munhu ane rudo nevanhu. Asi kune vamwe vakanzi makaita 45,000 people. Uyai muite leader of the parliament, vanhu opposition in parliament vakamhanya. Vakasvika vakatanga kudzinga vanhu vatata elector kuti buda iwe boy vai. Vakapinda imomo taisikaziva vachamhanyiswa futi sembo kudai. What happened to the man we contributed for the armored car? The car is being bought. Thanks for asking that question. We had problems last time. Vanhu veZANU-PF vakanyorera vanhu veGoFundMe. Zvikanzi mari iyoyo is not going to be used the purpose yayakareizirwa. Saka vanhu veGoFundMe ndobva valoka mari. Mari handisi kuziva kuti yakazobuda, ndichabvunza vana mudharaunda B. But the man was locked in GoFundMe. Shinzi, you can't withdraw it. we want mapapers ekuzva kuti mari muda kuishandisa chii. Saka ndichabvunza izvinozvo kuti zvaapapi. Thanks for asking mukoma Sid, because ndakaona Timba achitaura kuti we are looking for a car. Saka zvoreva kuti mari iyo ichingongobuda chete motikari iyo yakutotengwa. Handimaona problem yota. Isusu patone tiri kuvaka tiri kubatsira ZANU-PF inenge ida kutaitena mascrews. Saka vanzi vakanyora nani masila vakanyora hanzi matsamba akawanda kwete matsamba ekutamba nawo. Vamwe vanyorwa kubva kuna George Charamba, vamwe vanyorwa kubva kuna nani, hanzi kuZimbabwe muno muUK hanzi akaenda dzakadai so. Achinyora kuita kunge petition kuti musaburitsa mari idzodzo musaburitsa mari. Hanzi vana komichi vakanyora futi, ndadakanga notaura nyaya iyo, hanzi vana komichi vakanyora tsamba yekuti hanzi mari ndeye MDC Alliance, haisiye vanhu ivavo, imari yepolitical party inonzi MDC Alliance. Panyika pane varoi baba, pane varoi. Thanks for asking Nkoma Sid. Ndadakanga nokutaura nyaya iyoyo kuti varoi vakanyora vakati imari yeMDC Alliance. Saka zvinenge zvakagadziriswa zvikanzi ngaireleaswe. Saka kureleaswa kwayaitwa kwacho, I think from what I last heard it was about kuti yaifanira kubuda ma 20,000 or less ameno. Ndichabvunza ndove necorrect information then ndoya ndokupaya, or else tinongodaidza Juma ouya panapa uexplaina. Varoi varipo havakazara, hanzi imari yeMDC Alliance. Komichi ada kujairira vanhu nai andimona. Saka nyaya yati kutaura panapa chiregai ndiite ndichi 10:22 ndoita ndichipedza kuti problem iri apa yekuti vanhu ava understand when we talk about sanctions. Vanhu vanoda kubvunza kuti masanctions chii. Handimazoti achitaura nyaya yemasanctions tikapedza. Chinhu chinonzi masanctions, sanctions are measures imposed on a state, measures imposed on a group of people, measures imposed on individuals as a punishment for certain actions. Dati mubate ipapo. ZANU-PF inenge ichikutaura kuti nyika iri mumasanctions. Nyika haisi mumasanctions. As 𝗬𝗲𝗂𝗍𝗍, what are we doing for the 2023 observers, please? There is a GoFundMe iripo which is raising money for observe or for my election agents 2023 GoFund. We are looking for something like 2.3 or so million. I think that will be enough for us to make sure that every polling station in a moon watinotemba and in mona. Saka vanokwanisa kuenda ku GoFundMe ikoko endai munoisa mari. Thank you. Have a nice dream, Shapilo. Thank you, Nkoma Brightons. Thank you, Nkoma Ngsarwaka. Thank you so much. Locks mpenyu. Rasta. Locks takambopinda group 1 reku Comrade Musa's Lounge. Locks zikagotizawo. Man. Mana Locks ngatibatane, ngatipinde ima groups. What I'm urging Zimbabweans is ngatipinde ima groups, ma WhatsApp groups. Ivawo muhane or 2 WhatsApp groups. Usangogara usiri mu WhatsApp group. Pindai ma WhatsApp groups. Muchikrashana nawo machinja arimo. Muchikrashana nawo mazano arimo. Kune mazano ari kunyora zvekufunga kuti pamwe ukaverenga sonota pati yatsemuka nhasi. It's very unfortunate that they are insensitive. Our Vice President 𝗬𝗲𝗂𝗍𝗍𝗂 is not feeling well. Has been hospitalized. Mama Kumalo, she's not well. She's not well at all. Saka, these were 2 people who did not come for the rally. It's not because they didn't come because Vapandu and writers say no. These 2 people are not feeling well. These are our leaders. Mama Kumalo tichingovafonera every time and then mama madya, mama murisei, mama munoda kokokora and so forth. To show our love to our leader. Andimona. Adzana kapu vakagarira brain. Brain dzawo madhodhi chaiwo. Unganyora kugofundme kuti hanzi mari yeMDC Alliance mari yema-citizens imari yedu. Patakatanga that thing takati it's not done by the MDC Alliance, it's a citizens initiative yatakaita tega. Tikati taona motikari dzavachamisa kuti ikatemwa nedombo iwo mwazhu bara ropinda, why can't we buy him something that can protect him? Ndo saka takaunganidza mari yekutenga motikari iyoyo. Andimona. Saka what I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, is people don't understand. ZANU-PF nechikunyeperai kuti takwara nema-sanctions, nyika iri pama-sanctions. No. These are not sanctions imposed on a state. They are not sanctions imposed on a group of people. These are sanctions imposed on individuals. These people are being punished for torture, abductions and murder, corruption and looting. So that has got totally nothing to do with Zimbabwe. I wish them ndikuwana matirawo anchokwadi matauriro anoita mazano unopezera waora moyo. Musanda taura kuti pindai magroups, questionai nawo. Mukaona muri mumagroups ekuti hamunzwisisi kuti munovapindura sei ndiedhe. Inini ndikakuradza magroups andinawo. I think ndakutosvika 200 WhatsApp groups and mese imo mune nchitaura nchipinda. Ndikabva mune riri ndapindura, ndamhanya uko ndapindura, ndadzoka uko ndaenda uko, vanondiguta. Pamwe pacho nozoona waunzi removed. Ndakamboiswa mugroup reUK ZANU-PF. Amene vakandisa ndiani imomo. Takangotaure the following day ndikaona ndati removed. Ndokanenda kuinbox kwaadmin akandibvisa ndikati amudi chokwadi. 200 magroups locks kana uchida ndokuedha mese imomo. 200 groups dzandiri WhatsApp. Ndosaka kuona mafoni angu ese ari 256 gigabytes kuitira mavideo nemachine information zvese. Ndokara ndiri muoffice mamunangagwa, ndiri mumwe group remuoffice mamunangagwa. Ndakaudza mumwe munhu ndikati ndirimo muoffice mako id. Vanhu vakati ache imwe information yandotaura panapa vamwe vanhu havazivi ndoiwanepi. Nendiri ndichipuhwa maofisi iwayo mane nchipinda imomo. Hai mngoma maswera ze, ndaswera mngoma Peter, zviri sei? Imwe information yandotaura panapa is too sensitive. Munhu anogona kuti Yuda uri muno unifonere. Ndozofona teta kutoudzwa unzi Yuda kuno kwakamira kwakadai ninga kudai takutouya takuzi usazotaura bozi ndiri muoffice ndobatwa isobva vari bvu ndozada ubatwe. Asi kuno Cape Town kune group reCC mkuru, add me please kana mune link. Ndichatarisa magroups anawo pane Cape Town here. Bozi mamwe magroups acho ndakatozocreate, ndaona kuti ndaanzwa nevanhu ndangocreate ona live stream. Kune group rinonzi Yuda live stream. Haimomomo vamwe vanopinda vachibuda bozi maadmin ariko havana fani. Wangoya wangoti ZANU chete remove. Andimona hanzi add me magroups iwayo Shapiro. Munoisa manhamba enyu ku inbox kwangu. Bozi magroups acho handisi admin. Kwandiri admin ndokwataka-create. Mwakwese kwandisi admin ndinoedwa nevanhu kunzi uya utitaurire. Saka remove kazhinji kacho nongoti Yuda removed. Unge group randakamboiswa rana Eustace anoziva nyaya ndikutaura. Eustace akambouya kuYuda stream akasvika akamboti ZANU zvikanzi uyo mutengesi remove. Ndikati musamubvisa zvikanzi remove. Eustace wobva apuwa mamatching orders, anoziva nyaya dzandikutaura. Ndiri magroup akawanda. Akawanda magroups acho. Mamwe aya mukamatarisa mamwe aya magroups esa aya magroups esa muri kuona magroups esa muri kuona aya magroups iyo ifoni inofunga ina ameno bozi manumbers anawo itu kune imwe nemamwe magroups anongoenda imwe nemamwe anongoenda saka you end up dzimwe nguva mamwe acho handizopinduri. Pane rimwe group rina na Benson Matinyararire, rina chimudhara iye chinonzi Maponga chendebvu dzakaora chachiya. Ndaseka nhasi, mirai ndikuratidzei. Tikakuudzai kuti maofisi tinenge tirimo. Vanhu vachiti Shapiro. Ndaseka nhasi. Ndakuratidzai picture iyi yatorwa. Muri kuona picture iyi handisuratidza zita remunhu atora bhozi mungazoziva. Picture chinooneka here. Mukaona vanhu vagere apa. Uyu ndimaponga uyu nditinashe Jonas. Mapo hazi 200 groups. Come on Yuda. Ndakuratidza wani magroups acho mamwe. Kana ida unongoridza namba dzako Eustace ndokupa maadmin kuti eda Eustace. Unongopinda mu100 chat. Wotoona nomasimudza here. Picture ndikuratidza ya. Regai ndikuratidza picture yacho munyatsoiona. Muikona picture yatorwa manje masikati anaya. Uyu ndimaponga uyu. Uyu mukadzi watinashe Jonas. Uyu nditinashe Jonas. Hanzi nemufesi wangu ari kupresident's office. Hanzi nemufesi wangu mirai munzwe zvaataura. Ndiye atora mapicture akawanda. Mirai muone. Uyu nditinashe Jonas akatarisa uko. Ndo paitwa musangano naKomichi ipapa. Uyu nditinashe Jonas nemukadzi wake agere mu amendri muri kuiona here. Ndicha-uploada pangirini paFacebook. Nditinashe Jonas nemukadzi wake. Later on vachibva vajoinwa ndakamudza Tinashe Jonas ndikati uri mwana mudiki stereg when it comes to shepherd Yuda. Bedroom ako ndogona kupinda. Uyu Tinashe Jonas kana ndikaisa kana ndichamusendera kuti uri kuramba here kuti ndiwe apo wanga uri paRainbow Hotel nhasi una maponga nemukadzi wako mukadzi waTinashe Jonas. Uyu hanzi nemufesi wangu. Mirai muzwe message handitumira pahanditishe hanzi Shapiro kati hanzi hatiripo paRainbow Towers kati uri kuiteiko zvikati tiri pamission zvikanzi mira ndikuratidza zvikuitwa pano. Ndobva atora picture Tinashe Jonas nemukadzi wake gare kuchibva kwauya chimaponga chiya zvikanzi handiti zvikanzi dhuma hanzi nabhururu wangu dhuma naTinashe Jonas. Hanzi murwere uya. Hanzi murwere uya. Hanzi ukataza skin yake yakaita black as tar. Hanzi he took off his shoes paasvika akagara. Hanzi bhutsu dzacho manhuwira dzichiita. Handisi kunyepa ndiri kutaura zvandiri kuverenga pana zvakatumwa nabhururu wangu. Zvikanzi paasvika achigara auya nemukadzi wake. Hanzi ukatasa face yake yakaita as black as tar. Zvikanzi paRainbow Towers apa. And the wife is shabby. Ndosaka muchiona vachisapota zanu kutsvaga kudya. And the wife is shabby. Ndikati uri kureve zvikanzi maponga joined in and the skin is dry. Haazivi kana mafuta. Haazi kana lotion haazivi. Haazivi vakanyanya. Aiwa ndiri kutaurira chokwadi ka wakomana. Aya mapictures hamuna kwamunomawana. Aya. Ndogona kuisirai paFacebook. Uyu ndiye maponga naTinashe Jonas nemukadzi wake. Hanzi Tinashe maJonas uyu skin yake is as dry as a meno. Zvikanzi Tinashe Jonas face yake hanzi face yake yakaita hanzi yakaita ke black. Hanzi black zvekuti kufa nezhara chete. Adidi mona. Saka ndachitumirwa nabhururu wangu. Achanotaura zvakawanda akazotaura Shapiro ndozotengeswa. Ndopamakaona pakabatwa Komichi achita musangano naGordon Matanga nerere rekuzekire vachita musangano vaida kubvara musangano wachamisa ipapo. Saka ivo vanenge vachisingaziva kuti tinozviwana kupi. Hazi Yuda uri muhombe. Yuda waka Yuda uri muhombe Yuda. Handisi muhombe but ndopinda kutsvaga information. Pamunonzi paipa papindiki mondona ndiripo. Ndakakuudzai ndikati kana kurari ndenge ndiriko. Saka tachitaura nyaya dzemasanctions. ZANU-PF inouya kwamuri yekunyeperai. Masanctions auraya nyika. Masanctions aripo aya anonzi ma-individual sanctions. Akapuhwa kuvanhu vari individual as a punishment for certain actions. we all know that there are three types of sanctions: economic sanctions, diplomatic sanctions, and military sanctions. My economic sanctions are commercial and financial penalties, such as levying important duties on goods, restricting exports, refusing to trade with the state, investment bans, and targeting companies from a state. So if you look at this with Zimbabwe, we got some targeted companies are aya company emasoja ayo cheta company dzanatagwirei that cannot cripple our economy because ivo havasi economy. Tina anonzi diplomatic sanctions, commercial and financial penalties such as levying, tinema anonzi diplomatic sanctions, political sanctions, political measures that aim to demonstrate displeasure with or disapproval of certain actions stopping short of taking economic or military steps, such reducing or removing diplomatic ties by, for example, getting rid of state's embassy. Saka urikona diplomatic ties aka anongoavoida kahondo. Zvava neUK kuti ZANU-PF ikaramba ichioma musoro ichiramba kuimplementa zvairi kunzi itai, vachangopesera vati katsande neembasi yako vharai bvai muno. Vanongobudawo muZimbabwe obva vanogara muSouth Africa zvatopera. Anonzi diplomatic sanctions ekuti imimi hamusina any other way you can communicate with Britain. Saka kose anonzi military sanctions, military interventions ranging from arms embargoes to airstrikes and full-scale attacks. Ndo amuri kuona atanga tasvika 2008. Dai maBritish akangosaina chete, ingadai so ZANU-PF yakanzwa moto. Andimana ndiki mangwana ngaise sanction anogona kupinda manje. Anogona kupinda manje. Saka watarisa zvakaita nge in 2010 UK imposed the sanctions on 49 people and organizations behind notorious human rights abuses, including one of Saudi Arabia officials involved in the 2018 murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Vanhu vacho vese vakarwa sanctions, and those implicated in the death of Russian lawyer 𝗬𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂 notable, and notable, they had their UK assets frozen and were banned from entering this country. Similar to what happened to Tabure, Emerson Mnangagwa and so forth, they were banned to enter this country. Both very targeted sanctions. A notable occasion, the United Kingdom imposed sanctions on another state was against apartheid South Africa in the 1980s, with Margaret Thatcher initially resisted due to trade links. Those sanctions included a ban on tourism and new investments. So the UK, US, EU, and Canada all currently have financial sanctions imposed on the Belarusian government. Irikupai mabazi. Ndosaka ndinachikutaurirai kuti dzimwe zvinhu futi tinofira zvinhu zvinoitwa naMnangagwa zvekuti he doesn't reason. Belarus iri under sanctions. President waanonzi Alexander Lukashenko is under sanctions, which has been accused of human rights violations and creating a migrant crisis at Belarusian borders. Exactly like what happened in Zimbabwe. We have got a terrorist government headed by a terrorist, someone wainzi Mutororo nguva dzehondo, acreate chaos yekuti maZimbabweans atove refugees all over the world. And more. Saka aya ndo anonzi military sanctions, nema diplomatic sanctions, nema econ. These are the only three types of sanctions dzinoikandwa kana musingade kunzwisisa. Saka chinozoitika ndechekuti maZimbabweans havazonzwisisi manje kuti zvakatanga sei. Zimbabwe zvakatanga nemutemo. It's an act of parliament that was yainzi Zimbabwe Democracy and Economic Recovery Act of 2001. Mutemo munofanirwa kuunzwisisa. Ukangounzwisisa chete hauchafe wakanyeperwa neZANU-PF kunzi Chamisa akaunza sanctions, Morgan Tsvangirai akaunza sanctions, MDC akaunza sanctions. Hauzombofe wakanyeperwa nemunhu weZANU futi ukanzwisisa mutemo uyu, vanokwanisa kuverenga, endai painternet monotsvaga mutemo wakanzi Zimbabwe Democracy and Economic Recovery Act of 2001. When they call it an act, unenge watove mutemo, it's law. Zivai zvinhu izvi, zivai zvinhu izvi, mukaziva ipapo matopedza. Hans Gift Osalos anorwisa idine mudumbu. That guy is very confident, very confident indeed. Andimona. Saka I want you guys to understand this law. Because mukasaunzwisisa mutemo uyu muchafa muchinyeperwa neZANU-PF. Zvakafanana nemutemo wokunzi usaponda, ukaponda unosungirirwa, unohemwa muZimbabwe. That becomes law. Murunzo. Mutemo wakangofanana nezidhera. It's an act. An act is what we call law. Saka ukasaunzwisisa mutemo iwoyo unofamba uchinyeperwa neZANU-PF. So what an act is to provide for transition to democracy and to promote economic recovery in Zimbabwe. This law was put by the Americans to provide for transition to democracy. Murunzi kana chiti democracy, imi munoda one man one vote. Ko zvekuriga munozorigirei? Ko munozourayirei munhu kuti aenda kunovhota? Munozourayirei munhu kuti anzi zano yadyiwa pano? Is that what you call democracy? So all those acts kuti masoja anopfura vanhu mutauni in front of international journalists, mapurisa anozvifilma achiponda vanhu veMDC vachitumira pamaintaneti. Andiona izvozvo mutemo uyu unokubatai. Saka mutemo uri kuti those things must stop and be a democratic country so that the economy of Zimbabwe will recover. Chete ndozvikurehwa nemutemo iwoyo. So what is be it enacted by the state, enacted by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled. Section 1, short title. This act may be cited as the Zimbabwe Democracy and Economic Recovery Act of 2021. Section 2, note, statement of policy. It is the policy of the United States to support the people of Zimbabwe in their struggle to effect peaceful democratic change, achieve broad-based and equitable economic growth, and restore the rule of law. Ndo zviri kuchemerwa nemutemo uyu. Ndo zviri kuchemerwa nemutemo. To restore the rule of law in Zimbabwe. Chete, and nothing else. Section 3 define. In this act subsection 1. International financial institutions. The term international financial institution means the multilateral development banks and the International Monetary Fund. 2. Multilateral development banks. The term multilateral development banks means the International Bank for Reconstruction, the International, let me go back again. The term multilateral development banks means the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the International Development Association, the International Finance Corporation, the Inter-American Development Bank, the Asian Development Bank, the Inter-American Investment Corporation, the African Development Bank, the African Development Fund, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency. All these are what we call multilateral development banks. Ndo dzinogona kukupai mari. Dzimwe mari dzacho hadzidzorerwe, munopiwa mahara. Kunzi muruda kuvaka dzimba 1.5 million tokupai isusu kana imba 1 ichiita kana kuti 20,000 kuvaka, tokupai 1 billion endai munovaka dzimba. Chipai vanhu dzimba vagare. Andi muri kuona kune mabank akadaro anokupai mari. Andi makanzwa Tulincwa achifara itapuwa 1 billion iyaya nanhasi kwabvunzwa kuti 1 billion yamakapuwa yakaendepi, haasi kana mbotaura nezvayo. Yakutonzi ngaitotenga regalia yeZANU-PF. Saka ndo dzimwe mari dzinouya dzamunongopiwa dzokuti hamudzoreri. Andimona. Saka zvinoreva kune ma-international financial institutions include aiwa ma-multilateral development banks. Mabanks iwaya ndo anokupai dzimari. Ndo mabanks ekuti ZANU-PF inoziva, vana Mnangagwa vanoziva. Ndosaka vaingobuda kunze kwenyika vachiti tauya nemari, tauya nematata mari dzakati, tauya nemari. Vanhu hadzisi mari dzavo, imari dzavanenge vachipiwa nemabengi aya. Andimona. Ndo mari dzavaipiwa vachinovaka dzimba kuSingapore, vachinovaka zvipatara kuSingapore, vachinovaka zvipatara munana China, vane mabusiness muDubai. Bosi vanoziva kuti vanhu vemuZimbabwe havasi kuziva kuti kuri kuuya dzimari idzi. Inongo yari billion otopuwa vokonyepa, takaita zvakati, wotora mari dzacho dzese dzoroverwa mabhanga. Woenda wonovaka ma5-star hotel. Vachitadza kuvaka 5-star hotel paVictoria Falls kuti paite matourist anouya achirarapo vachiona Vic Falls Zimbabwe ichiita mari. Havasi kudaro. Vari kuvaka kunana Dubai, vari kuvaka kunana Singapore. Vachivaka zvipatara zvinodhura. Vari kuluma. Ndo kunobva mari idzi. Saka muri kuona vari kuchema manje kuti kana waiswa wanzi ngane ma-sanctions, you are not able to access these funds. Saka ZIDERA inovhara mukana wokuwana mari idzodzi nekuti vane mari dzavakapiwa dzavakaba. Ukavabvunza mari yavakapiwa yeISAP kuti yakaenda kupi, nanhasi they can't give an explanation. Unongonzwa vachingoti ISAP failed, ISAP failed. ISAP failed. You got the money for ISAP. Where is the money? And in Mona. So if you go on section 4 of the ZIDERA, it talks about support for democratic transition and economic recovery. As in mkoma chidodo, like Tagarika floods, ndikwina akavaka, and pakabiwa mari. Exactly. Good night, Misty. Good night. So you find that if you section 4 it discuss about support for democratic transition and economic recovery. My findings. Congress makes the following findings. Through economic mismanagement, manzwastoro na mkoma alad chidodo. Yavari kutaura yekuti kwakavakwa anonzi Matagarika flats akavakwa na Queen Elizabeth. Mari dzakangouya dzisingadzoserwe dzikarohwa musanga nemaZANU-PF. Saka vari kuti through economic mismanagement, undemocratic practices, and the costly deployment of troops to Democratic Republic of Congo. Kuti Zimbabwe, you are a country that begs kuti nenzara. You are a country kuti munonga muchema hatina mishonga muchidonetero. Chikafu munodonetero. Asi muri kuwana mari yekunzi chiita ikonomi zvakati imotuta masoja moenda nawo kunorwa hondo kuDRC. You understand? Saka vanhu vanonga vachikupai zvakafanana nekuti iwe unofamba uri bhega panzapo uchikumbira uchienda door to door ndokumbirawo shuga, ndokumbirawo hupfu, ndokumbirawo matemba. Asi kupera kwemwedzi vanhu vanokuona watenga E-class Benz, watopaka E-class Benz apo. Vanhu vachakufarira here mangwana? Vachakupa here ukakumbira? Kuti uri kufamba uchikumbira vanhu kuti hauna chekupa vana vako, uri kutenga ML, uri kupaka ML, uri kutenga Lamborghini, asi uri kufamba uri nebegging plate uchibhega vanhu kuti ndikumbirawo hupfu. Andirikuwa ndozvikuita Zimbabwe, kuti muri kupuwa mari muchinzi vakirai vanhu dzimba. Vakaigadzirai 𝗬𝗂𝗃 iya, gadzirai vanhu vamwe mvura yakanaka. Tengai mishonga yekutrita mvura. Instead muri kutora mari idzodzo mukutenga pfuti kuchina. Matenga pfuti nezvombo nemabara kuchina, makututa masoja eZimbabwe, makunozvita monya, makunopinda muDRC kunorwa hondo. What did Zimbabwe benefit out of DRC? Nothing. Individuals benefited out of DRC. So at the end, nyika dzinokupai mari, mabhenga acho anokupai mari, vanenge vachikuonai kuti avapa 2 billion vakutoenda kuhondo. Vanhu havanorizina here, munofunga mune pfungwa here. Saka vanobva vadaidzira kuti wanyirapo gona tu. Amati uyu wanyirapo gona. Ndozvavanotaura. Saka chavo kuti vazokupai imwe mari vanoti no, hatidi. Tangai matidzosera mari yatakakupai. Makaishandisa chii? Takaisa interest yakati. Tipei mari iyoyo. Kana matipa mari yotozoona kuti tozokupai imwe mari here. Hamungatati musati madzosera iyaya muda imwe mari futi. Saka financial institutions haakupei mari. Nekuti makazvita monya mukanorwa hondo umoza kuDRC, mari dzikapera ikoko, ndege dzamakatenga dzikapera kudonha, mavana maZimbabweans akapera kufa, masoja akapera kufa. Mapedza apo magara manje, hondo yakaramba kupera. Mapeta maoko hamusina chekudya, hamusina mvura yakachena yekunwa, vanhu vari kufa nekorera, marara haasi kutakurwa marare. Instead makunotera mari dzacho dzinofanira kugadzira road dzese makatora mukaenda nadzo kuhondo. Kwamakakwereta kwakunzi chitipai mari, imi mari hamuna. Mari makaishandisa chi? Hamuna chekuratidza kuti mari makaishandisa chi. Hamuna road yamakagadzira, hamuna dhamu ramakagadzira. Ndosaka uri kuona Mnangagwa akuita karikiriki kugadzira tumabridge, kakabridge kekuti mabhasikoro apesane, kuti at least toratidza IMF kuti mari yamakatipa takagadzira kabridge aka. Ndosaka uchiona vachiti kabridge kake kekaranda kake kakaita 3 million. Kabridge kaya kaita kana $10,000 kaya. Kukonhonga matombo ne 10 bags esciment kwakutongovaka. Haikwani kana $10,000. Kari kuswa 3 million. Kuda kutry kuinflate maprice kuti asei kuti hanzi takavaka zvakati, takavaka mochari, takavaka bus terminus. That is not the development yaidiwa. Mari dzavakapiwa vakabava vakaendesa kuhondo kuti vachidzosera havana. The country did not make any profit. You understand? Saka financial institutions, they cannot keep lending you money. No. You understand? Saka ndopa urikona Congress yakataura ikati the government of Zimbabwe has rendered itself ineligible to participate in International Bank for Reconstruction and Development and International Monetary Fund programs, which would otherwise be providing substantial resources to assist in the recovery and the modernization of Zimbabwe economy. Nosaka muchiona tine economy yakaora. The recovery of Zimbabwe have thus been denied the economic and democratic benefits envisioned by the donors to such programs. Mari dzamaipuwa dzacho nemadonors maiendesa kuhondo kuDRC. Masara emimi nyika haisina chainacho. Muri kukochemera kuti vana America tipei mari. Moidi mari, makapuwa mari, mukaita misappropriate the money, mukaita mismanage the money. So even the Americans chaivo vakataura kuti they can't help you. Amubatsiriki. Kuti you are beggars, makutozvita monya kuDRC. Andimaona. Saka chitorai mari dzamakaendesa kuCongo, chivaka yenyika. By now our economy should have been modernized and mari dzacho dziripo. But we cannot access those funds because we don't have an accountable government. So in subsection 2 of ZIDERA, it states that in September 1999, the IMF suspended its support under a standby arrangement approved the previous month for economic adjustment and reform in Zimbabwe. Ndo yainzi ISAP iya. Misappropriation of the funds. Ndosaka muri kuona even pa MDC yanga yavapo, but yanga isati yatombowe impact in our politics. IMF had suspended ZANU-PF government already for misappropriation and mismanagement of the funds. The ISAP. In October 1999, the International Development Association, in this section referred to as the IDA, suspended all structural adjustment loans, credits, guarantees to the government of Zimbabwe. Ndoda kuti mundu udze ipapo kuti papi tsvangirai wapinda papi. Hanzi Chamisa by that time I think he was 18 years old, I think, or less. He was around 18 years old. And they are accusing Chamisa of bringing sanctions to Zimbabwe. This is October 1999. When the International Development Association, the one that you call IDA, suspended all structural adjustment loans, credits and guarantees to the government of Zimbabwe. This is October 1999. Muna September 1999, takasuspendwa ne-IMF ichiti kuda mari yayo. MDC yanga isati yatombove ne-impact up. Vanhu vanga vachiri kufunga kutojoina here MDC kati hatikazivi. They accuse Tsvangirai kuti Tsvangirai takasuspendwa ne-IMF pamusaka paTsvangirai. Havachatauri chokwadi kuti vakaita misappropriate mari dzeisapo. Saka IMF yakuda mari yayo, imimi hamuna mari, ndo mari yamakutotengera masoja pfuti nezvombo muchienda kuhondo. Tsvangirai was not involved. Chamisa was not involved there. In May 2000, hondo yeminda yanga yatanga mama kuponda vanhu. Matadza kubudirira DRC madzoka nehasha. Amusina mari muhomwe, you are broke, a broke government. And you started venturing your anger to the people of Zimbabwe. So in May 2000, the IDA suspended disbursement of funds for ongoing projects under previously approved loans, credits and guarantees to the government of Zimbabwe. Kana papa nema projects anga abvumiranwa avakataura kuti nono hatichakwanisi. Kutambe tikupai mari toti taima projects hamusi kuita. Mutoenda kuhondo. Hondo haisi project yanga iri budgeted for DRC. Saka muri kuona vaita IDA yakataura kuti no, tasuspenda. This is in May 2000. Hapana Tsvangirai apo. Hapana Chamisa. Zidera haisati yatomboiswa ipapa. Bo Zidera yakazoiswa 2001. Apa pamwe pesa apa Zidera haisati yaiswa. Hapana Chamisa, hapana Tsvangirai apo. Masuspension ari kuitwa the misappropriation of funds dzakapiwa ZANU-PF government, which are still unaccounted for. In September 2000, the IDA suspended disbursement of funds. Taitaura. Support for democratic transition and economic recovery. Pakazoitwa what do they call bilateral debt relief. Upon receipt by the appropriate congressional committees of certification described in subsection D, the Secretary of the Treasury shall undertake a review of the feasibility of restructuring, rescheduling, or eliminating the sovereign debt of Zimbabwe held by an agent of the United States government. That is a bilateral debt relief which has been agreed by the Congress. Then there's a multilateral debt relief and other financial assistance. It is the sense of Congress that upon receipt by the appropriate congressional committees of a certification described in subsection D, the Secretary of the Treasury should A. Direct the United States Executive Director of each multilateral development bank to propose that the bank should undertake a review of the feasibility of restructuring, rescheduling, or eliminating the sovereign debt of Zimbabwe held by the bank. Apana Tsvangirai. Apana chamisa apa. Batai mashokwa. Ndati muunzwisise mtemo. It's an act which was put in 2001 after all these considerations. No Tsvangirai was there, no Chamisa here. B. Direct the United States Executive Director of each international financial institution to which the United States is a member to propose to undertake financial and technical support for Zimbabwe, especially support that is intended to promote Zimbabwe's economic recovery and development, the stabilization of the Zimbabwe dollar, and the viability of Zimbabwe's democratic institutions. Mutemo ushu. Apana Tsvangirai apa. Apana Nelson Chamisa apa. Apana MDC apa. C. Zvikanzi multilateral financial restriction until the president makes the certification described in subsection D and accept as may be required to meet basic human rights, human needs, or for good governance, the Secretary of the Treasury shall instruct the United States Executive Director to each international financial institution to oppose and vote against 1. Any extension by the respective institution of any loan, credit, or guarantee to the government of Zimbabwe. Any cancellation or reduction of indebtedness owed by the owed by the government of Zimbabwe to the United States or any international financial institution. Diacho inotaura ichiti presidential certification that certain conditions are satisfied. A certification under this subsection is a certification transmitted to the appropriate congressional committees of a determination made by the president that the following conditions are satisfied. Chinzwai ma conditions are very important kuti mumateerere. Condition 1, restoration of the rule of law. The rule of law has been restored in Zimbabwe, including respect of ownership and title to property, freedom of speech and association, and an end to the lawlessness, violence and intimidation sponsored, condoned, or tolerated by the government of Zimbabwe, the ruling party, and their supporters. Why they continue to extend the sanctions? It's because of this subsection 1, section D 1. Inotaura iyo restoration of rule of law. The rule of law kana paptwa satisfaction inonge yaitwa yaenda kuna president. Inotaura the rule of law in Zimbabwe has been restored, including respect of ownership and title to property. Musanyeperwa nyaya dzemapurazi chete, asi ndo chete arikuta anoconsider. Vakakombenzeta mafarmers aya vasina kupa freedom of speech and association. Avana zvavanenge vaita. Vana hopo chingona avafana kudetainwa. Nosaka uchiona vana hopo vakadetainwa, America inotaura, dzimwe nyika dzinotaura. Because varutaura kuti freedom of speech and association is not being respected. Is part of the law that the Americans are assessing. Nosaka uchinzwa vachitaura kuti we are assessing my elections enyu. We are assessing human rights situation yenyu. Kuitira mtemo uyu wavari kutaura unonzi dhera, especially subsection 1 of D, ikutaura rule of law. Saka musanyeperwa kunzi hanzi masanctions auraya nyika. Chauraya nyika ZANU-PF does not want to respect ownership and title of property. They don't want to respect freedom of speech and association. ZANU-PF doesn't want to end this lawlessness. You have seen police bashing people. ZANU-PF does not want to stop violence. Pane zvivafana zvezanu zvinobuda chiti muchati guta. President wezanu anobva kuBrussels otanga kutaura kuti chamisa tichadhila newe ukata violence. Vari kunzi stop that violence. Ivo vari kuramba vachiita violence. Saka haasi masanctions auraya nyika. Ndivo vauraya nyika. They don't want to stop to be violent. They don't want to stop to sponsor intimidation in our country. Maposters our ese their intimidation. The government of Zimbabwe supports violence. The government of Zimbabwe does not tolerate any other political party in our country. So the ruling party and its supporters, they think they're entitled to Zimbabwe. This is why you see they don't want to stop intimidation. They don't want to stop violence. They don't want to desist from lawlessness. And this is part of law in Americans' data to say there must be restoration of rule of law. As long as they don't respect the data, it's very unfortunate that the law will stand and ZANU-PF will remain on sanctions until all these things are certified that they've been fulfilled. Part 2, parutaura good election or pre-election conditions. Either there must be certification here to the President of America. Either of the following two conditions are satisfied. First condition, presidential elections. Zimbabwe has held a presidential election that is widely accepted as free and fair by independent international monitors, and the president-elect is free to assume the duties of the office. As long as ZANU-PF ichiita zvairi kuita izvi, those sanctions will be there. Vatsvangirai vakawina 2008, the winner vakaramba kuti atonge. 2018 vachamisa vakawina vakaramba kuti the winner atonge. So the our presidential elections are not being certified as free and fair by independent international monitors. So as long as our elections are like that, the ZDERA is not going anywhere. The sanctions will remain in place. And ZANU-PF is the only political party that can assure, that can make sure that free and fair elections, presidential elections have been held. And the preconditions, election conditions. A good example, you saw we have got by-elections soon. People were arrested and bashed by ZANU-PF. Those are preconditions that Americans are looking at. The international world is looking at. Pre-election conditions. They must be certified that in the event the certification is made before the presidential election takes place, the government of Zimbabwe has sufficiently improved the pre-election environment to a degree consistent with accepted international standards for security and freedom of movement and association. Makaona patakaenda kuHarare grounds nesande. Vanhu vaito vaidzoswa vanga vasikabvumirwi kuenda. Those preconditions where people are restricted or withdrawn from, or with their rights withdrawn, it will make Zimbabwe government sanctions continue. There must be a commitment, ladies and gentlemen. Besides presidential certification and so forth, there must be a commitment to equitable, legal, and transparent land reform. Instead, Pasidera as the law. ZANU-PF does not say this to its supporters And its supporters are ignorant of this. What ZANU-PF only talks about is about commitment, is about the land reform program. Americans out, we need certification, ladies and gentlemen, to commitment to equitable, legal, and transparent land reform. The government of Zimbabwe must demonstrate a commitment to an equitable, legal, and transparent land reform program consistent with the agreements reached at the International Donors Conference. Pavaenda ku-International Donor Conference vana Mugabe vachisaina ma-concessions, vachisaina ma-agreements ekuti tichazoita zvakati vonzi saina apa vachismaira vachienda ma-fat checks. Tsvangirai was not there. Nelson Chamisa was not there. It was Mugabe, Mnangagwa, Chiwenga, and Kamban who were there. They attended my International Donors Conference. Ndosaka vachiona maZANU-PF vachifunga kuti munhu akaita political party akutodya mari dzema-donors because ivo ndo zvaivararamisa vachiba mari dzacho. So what they did is attend those International Donors Conference on land reform and resettlement in Zimbabwe held in Harare muna September 1998. Vasati vatanga zhowe vakatomboita vakagara pasi vakataura. Saka Zimbabwe government must fulfill, there must be a fulfillment of agreement ending war in Democratic Republic of Congo. The government of Zimbabwe must make a good faith effort to fulfill the terms of the Lusaka-Zambia agreement on ending the war in the DRC Republic of Congo. Pakaitika Lusaka agreement, I still remember. ZANU-PF yakanzi bisai masoja mu DRC. That is not your business. Adzisi zese masada countries akaenda kuyako. Mozambique haina kuenda. Kune nyika zhinji vana Malawi havana kuenda ku DRC. Saka zvazvisiri zveagreement yeSADC. Zvanga zviri zvinhu zveagreement ma-personal businesses avo vana ED ekuluta ma-diamonds. And thousands and thousands of Zimbabwe soldiers died there. But someone wants a gold claim. Someone wants diamonds. Want to fatten his pocket. Using army as a personal army. And so they went for this Lusaka agreement and say, please pull out. Vakaramba. Vakanorohwa zvekurohwa zviya. So if you look, military and national police subordinate to civilian government, those are true taura every day. Could don't militarize our state. Zimbabwe is a police state. Those rimoms dera izvozvo. ZANU-PF haizvitaurire mayouth ayo. The Zimbabwean armed forces, the National Police of Zimbabwe, and the other state security forces are responsible to and serve the elected civilian government. Vakabuda vachitaura vega, vana zvinavashe, ivo vana 𝗱𝗆𝗀𝗁𝗁 vekuzorohwa muchetura uyu, ivo vana 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂 vakabuda vakaungana mauto vachiti, we will never salute anyone without war credentials. Ndosaka mutemo wari kuudzwa kunzi kana iri an election iri free and fair, kana asina ma-war credentials awina, you are the army, you have to salute him. Saka kuramba kwavari kuita vakabva vaonekwa unzi no it's a military coup, vachibva vanzi sanction nga. Saka imimi muri kuchemera. Ukaona maZimbabweans, some of us are very stupid. They will raise placards kuti murambe muchidzvanyirirwa, murambe muchinzi mukawina nyika hamutonge, mozovanzi hanzi ma-sanctions ngaabviswe. You are very stupid indeed. So there is a waiver of all this. The president may waive the provisions of subsection B1 or subsection C if the president determines that it is the national interest of the United States to do so. Saka ukaenda pa section 5 section 4 yemutemo uyu, chirega ndiende pa section 5 yemutemo wacho ndo section yekupedzesera. Section 5 inotaura yiti support for democratic institutions, the free press and independent media, and the rule of law. In general, the president is authorized to provide assistance under Part 1 and Part 4 of Part 2 of the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961. 2. 1. Support an independent and free press and electronic media in Zimbabwe. 2. Support equitable, legal, and transparent mechanism of land reform in Zimbabwe, including the payment of costs related to the acquisition of that land and the resettlement of individuals, consistent with the International Donors Conference on Land Reform and Settlement in Zimbabwe, held in Harare, Zimbabwe in September 1998, or any subsequent agreement relating thereto. And 3. Provide for democracy and governance programs in Zimbabwe. Saka ndo A general yacho. Ndobva vaya 2 vakati pa funding of the funds authorized to be appropriated to carry out Part 1 and Chapter 4 of Part 2 of the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961 for fiscal year 2002. 20 million is authorized to be available to provide the assistance described in Section A, 2, and 2. 6 million is authorized to be available to provide the assistance described in Section 3. The imari, which was set aside by the American government to assist Zimbabwe to recover, to pay the costs and so forth, vanema properties which were forfeited. Zvakanzi president weAmerica mari yacho iripo, asi vanhu ava ngavarifume tovapa mari, vakaramba. So supersedes other laws. The authority in this section supersedes any other provision. 6. Sense of Congress on the actions to be taken against individuals responsible for violence and the breakdown of the rule of law in Zimbabwe. Ndo pakazoya chimamiso chavari kuchema nacho ichi ndo pachakazounzi nga apo in 2001. It is the sense of Congress that the president should begin immediate consultation with the governments of Europe and the member states in Canada and the other appropriate foreign countries on ways in which to 1. Identify and share information regarding individuals responsible for the deliberate breakdown of the rule of law, politically motivated violence and intimidation in Zimbabwe. 2. Identify assets of those individuals held outside Zimbabwe. 3. Implement travel and economic sanctions against those individuals and their associates and families. And finally, provide for the eventual removal of amendment of those sanctions. This was approved on the 2nd of December, on the 21st of December 2001. Vachamisa havana masimba ekutaura izvi. Vachangirai vanga vasina masimba ekutaura izvi. Zvekuti ZANU-PF inomira yonyepera vanhu kuti masanctions auraya nyika. They don't want people to know this. This is what we call Zidera. Ndo mtemo wacho uyu, which was approved in December 21, 2001. Ndati nini mtemo unonzi Zidera enact this is law. Section 1 yacho inotaura kuti it's a short title. Section 2 is a statement of policy. Section 3 inokupai ma definitions for you to understand the law. Section 4 inotaura support for democratic transition and economic recovery in Zimbabwe. Section 5 inotaura nezve support for democratic institutions, the free press and independent media and the rule of law in our country. Section 6 yapedza kudiscussa zvese. Section 6 yakazoya yakataura ikati kana zvisina kuitwa zvatataura mumutemo zvisiri kuitika, zvatichaita isusu sevanhu vekuAmerica, tichagara pasi negavhmendi dzekunana Canada nekunana Europe dzinova ndidzo dzinopa mari kuZimbabwe. Tichagara pasi totaura chinhu 1 kuti varume, let's identify and share information regarding individuals, not regarding Zimbabwe. Ukanza vachiti masanctions ndeeZimbabwe vari kunyepa, masanctions ndo ema-individuals vati ivo, let's identify and share information regarding individuals responsible for the deliberate breakdown of the rule of law, politically motivated violence and intimidation in Zimbabwe. Saka ndo vanhu vamuri kuona vakanzi masanctions nga. These people are responsible for the breakdown of rule of law in our country, are responsible for politically motivated violence, are responsible for intimidation in Zimbabwe. Mnangagwa mara achibva kuBrussels akutointimidata vachamisa. Asi katoziva kuti anoroswera achiteerera vachamisa vachitaura ndikati yenharo. Number 3, hanzi kana muchinge ma-identify vanhu ivava, let's implement my travel bans. Let's implement my economic sanctions against those individuals and their associates and families. Haisi nyika yese. Ndosaka wachiona UDAS pama-sanctions. Ndikada kukwira ndege kuenda kuAmerica nhasi ndoswera ndaa muChicago. Handisi pama-sanctions. Vana mai mujura havasi pama-sanctions. Handi muri kuona. Zvikanzi kana tadaro, let's provide, taita zvataita zvese, but we make sure that a provision is there for the eventual removal of amendment of those sanctions. Ndati ma-sanctions anogona kubviswa ese nhasi aya. Ese mutemo unogona kudzimwa nhasi kana ZANU-PF yamira zveviolence, yamira zve-breakdown of rule of law, vamira zvekusponsor violence munyika medu nekuintimidata vanhu, vaholda ma-free and fair elections, vaona kuti ma-property rights emunyika achengetedzwa. Hazvireme izvi. They can do it today. They can reform and become a political party in emusoro nhasi. As long as they don't want to implement this data, it's very unfortunate. The sanctions will continue. Even if vachamisa vakauya vakawina election, he has to make sure that these things are fulfilled. If he doesn't do so, then the sanctions will never go. Zinogona kutopindawo futi pama-sanctions pacho ipapo. Anditi maona. Saka it's all up to ZANU-PF, ladies and gentlemen. Zimbabwe government, it is now, the problem is Zimbabwe government is now accelerating its persecution of its critics, and they are accelerating their economic mismanagement. This is why you see a lot of things are now happening, extrajudicial killing. Zvavari kurambidzwa vari kuzviita. Vari kurepa vanhu. They are abducting a lot of people, vachiti ma-dissidents. Vachiuraya vanhu. They are not reading this data properly. And chinondishamisa muZANU-PF mune ma-solicitors nemagweta nema-lawyers, ma-barristers, who must understand the very simple law framed or crafted in simple English that anyone can understand. Apana chakanzi adisiki, what ultravirus. Apana chilatin, amuna chilatin. Vakanyora nechirungu chavo chekuAmerica chiri clear. Ndosaka uri kuona kunzi kana vasina kuimplementa, vasina kuita ma-reforms iwayo, it's a shame. Those individuals on sanctions will remain there. And the decision doesn't bear for anyone. No one is surprised about the decision why the Americans had to extend the sanctions. Why the European Union had to extend the sanctions. Because they are monitoring improvement. This is why they said there is a provision to lift these sanctions when this is certified that it has been done and they have reformed. Saka naiwaya mashoko muchengetai video iyi, katai pamunoda muchitumira vanhu vezano kuti vanzwisise kuti haasi masanctions auraya Zimbabwe. Chauraya Zimbabwe iZANU-PF iri kuramba kuimplementa zviri kunzi implementai, tite sei Zimbabwe igare zvakanaka. Anditi manzwa hanzi bhuti Yuda minjani bhuti yapila same linjani forward. Anditi maona. Saka it's all up to you, ladies and gentlemen. Inini pangu ndapedza kwanhasi, pangu panhasi ndapedza. Saka taakuita zvinonzi close down. Saka tinokuita close down toita close down ne national anthem. Anditi manzwa. Saka tinotanga pachiuto, totanga pfuti dzakagarapo. Vanaza paredicha recover. Otanga bread ovunduka uchiadopta posero of attention. Obonzi paredicha. Obomira uchiudza pfuti yako panapa. Obonzi recover arms and recover arms up. Do the up. Of what? General salute. Present. Arms up. Do the up. Still. Zisati dzaziva shoko guru randinoda kukudzai Nelson Chamisa wave nebato idzva danho rakatorwa mushure mekunge paonekwa kunzi zita reMDC rakange rasvibiswa nemandu komichina kupe nevamwe. Saka kana mave kuzoenda kunovhota munofanirwa kucherechedza kwazvo chiso chachamisa nemasi matatu namwe.